Pirate's Most Powerful Villain, Chapter 21-40. Chapter 0021_3rd Transformation. 400 million. When the bald man shouted a high price, the auction scene was quiet. As if time had paused, everyone's eyes turned to the corner of the hall on the first floor. Suddenly being stared at like this, Rao, a bald man, couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. What? Who else is taller than me? Be quiet. Chinyong was speechless for a while, and could only remind him coldly. The newborn calf is not afraid of tigers, and even dares to snatch something from the mysterious dream pirates. That shadow demon is a lunatic who even dares to kill Tenryubito. This guy is finished, the shark pirates will not let him go. There are 400 million Baileys. Isn't Tomahawk a small pirate group? In the hall, there are countless sights, some sympathize and pity, some joking, and even more surprised and admired. However, at this moment, the bald man didn't panic. Anyway, the sky fell and there was a tall man on his back. He was helping the adult beside him. If he was in danger, people couldn't just stand by and watch, right? Thinking of this, the bald man must have looked at the captain of the evil shark on the second floor and said, "Auctioneer, he doesn't have enough money, so don't hurry up and drop the hammer." Oh. Only then did the auctioneer react, and his inquiring eyes turned to Captain Evil Shark, and said, "Is there a higher price?" 400 million times. 400 million times. He was not in a hurry to drop the hammer and waited quietly. Captain Evil Shark's face was ashen, looking at the bald man with gloomy eyes. Before that, he got the news that there will be a devil fruit auction in the auction. For this, he spent more than half a month to raise 350 million. However, all of this was put into Dongshui. He could never have imagined that a Tomahawk pirate group would come out halfway along the way. What annoyed him even more was that he had already pulled out the dream tiger skin, and the other party still didn't know what to do. Damn it, never give him that devil fruit. That's what Lao Su belongs to. Before entering the new world, one must become a capable person, otherwise, there will be no place for me to stand in that sea. Captain Evil Shark was full of hatred and murderous intent, but at the auction site, he was not crazy enough to commit murder on the spot. He snorted angrily and said, "I hope you have the money to buy it and save your life. Let's go." He rose to his feet and left with a group of crew members in anger. "You don't have to worry about that." The bald-headed man pouted. He was already hated anyway, and he was not afraid of any threats. Seeing this, the auctioneer immediately shook his head and had no choice but to knock it down. Boom. 400 million, the third time. Congratulations to the captain of the Tomahawk Pirates for taking ownership of this devil fruit. After a period of congratulations, the auctioneer continued, "The next auction item is it's an old man." With that said, the staff took away the devil fruit and brought an old man in shackles. The old man had gray hair, a beard on his chin, silver hair and beard, round eyes, and a straight scar on his right eye. He was about to leave, but after seeing this man, Chinyong sat back again. Pluto Rayleigh. Chinyong opened his mouth and was speechless for a while. Not only him, but the buyers at the scene were speechless. "Hey, what are you doing? What's the point of auctioning the old man? Who will buy it? That is, if you buy it back as a servant, you are not afraid of his sudden death." "Haha, hurry up to the next one, no one buys this stuff." Auctioneer was also embarrassed, and said biting his head, "Cough, about this auction item, this old man recommended himself, and he wanted to auction himself. In his words, he wanted to exchange some wine money. In short, the reserve price is 100,000 shells. Profits, each increase shall not be less than 10,000, and the auction will begin." Quote. After he finished speaking, the auctioneer was ready for the cold market, and he didn't even believe that anyone would buy a bad old man. If you are a middle-aged man, you can buy it back to be a current person, but if you are an old man, you may not be able to do it, and you have to pay a burial fee when you die. However, things are always unexpected. The moment the auctioneer finished speaking, Qin raised his hand and made a calm offer, 110,000. Huh, the bald man was taken aback. The next moment, the auctioneer reacted, and he had a feeling of tears streaming down his face. This is a really nice guy. I was afraid that he would be cold, so I came here to ask for a price. The money spent is basically a waste of money. Immediately, he didn't even think about it, and immediately said, okay, this gentleman bid 110,000, is there a higher one? No, okay, congratulations to this gentleman for getting the old man's contract of sale. After a series of words, there was no pause, and the auctioneer couldn't wait to drop the hammer. Boom. This time, a group of buyers at the scene looked at each other without saying a word. Only the old man on the stage had a surprised look on his face. He had a subtle feeling, as if he had seen the man in the cloak under the stage. Okay, it was just a small episode just now, we will continue to auction the next one. Under the stage, Qin made a color and got up first. Are you gone, my lord? The bald man immediately got up and followed. Let's go. You go to the backstage to pay and get the goods. Qin ordered softly. Remember, be polite to that old man. Huh, isn't that an old man? Remember what I said, don't ask any extras. Seeing Qin tendency to get angry, the bald man nodded again and again, scolding himself for being an idiot, forgetting that the man in front of him was a dream. Go, I'll wait for you outside. After leaving a sentence, Qin walked towards the gate. Wait, my lord, be careful, the shark pirates won't let it go. Evil shark. Qin paused, chuckled, and said, he's asking for more blessings. Does he think the name of Dream was borrowed for nothing? If he is not bad, Marine's people will go to Sabayati land in half an hour at most, and even Admiral may appear. That idiot thinks that Dream is a good name, but Marine is almost digging 3 feet to find him now. Shaking his head, Qin was too lazy to care about the lives of others. He left the auction house and waited in a secret place. It was only 10 minutes before the bald man came with the old man. Here, my lord, this is the devil fruit you want. The bald captain handed it over respectfully. Qin took it, and lightly put the fruit into the cloak. The next moment, the sound of fantasy genes sounded in my mind. Scanned mysterious power. Turn on the absorption mode. Absorbing complete. Congratulations, the host has obtained the third transformation, the great monster Ibaraki Doji. Chapter 0022_1 Punch Man, Ibaraki Doji. Congratulations to the host, opening the third transformation, the big monster Ibaraki Doji. When Fantasy Gene's voice sounded, Qin couldn't help but look startled. He didn't expect that he didn't eat it at all, and Fantasy Gene took the initiative to absorb it, and the speed was so fast, almost in less than 3 seconds, a devil fruit had been absorbed cleanly, turned into a piece of dust and dissipated in his hands. Ibaraki Doji. It turned out to be a big monster transformed. Before Qin was happy, the forced transformation started. He suddenly felt a hot breath, as if flames were overflowing from his body. A black flame, uncontrollably, began to overflow from all over his body. Sir, the bald man immediately noticed the abnormality. When he saw the black flames overflowing under the cloak, he stepped back in fear. On his side, the old man's eyes flashed, and he said in surprise, "Black flame." The black flames became more and more intense, burning out the cloak on Qin body in an instant, revealing his youthful appearance. But Qin, who was shrouded in black flames, could not feel the heat. He quickly got used to this state and began to try to control the flames. Ibaraki Doji, Black Flame, is this the One Punch Man in the game? Qin suddenly reacted and felt extremely surprised. He thought it was a legendary monster, an evil spirit, but he did not expect that the third incarnation, Ibaraki Doji, was a handsome young man. Touching his face subconsciously, Qin immediately realized that his appearance had also undergone some changes. Not only that, but even his height had grown by a few centimeters. Black flame is my ability, and it should be able to be manipulated at will like the shadow of a shadow demon. Not having time to be surprised by the change in his appearance, Qinyang immediately stabilized his mind and tried to control his own flame. As soon as he closed his eyes and felt it, Qinyang immediately noticed the surging power in his body. That kind of power is like a flame, and it will erupt at any time. Stabilize. Taking a deep breath, Qinyang relaxed and let the surging black flames burning all over his body slowly dissipate. After a full 7 or 8 seconds, the black flame that seemed to burn everything was completely withdrawn from the body. When the flames completely disappeared, the bald man could see Qinyang's state clearly. The first time he saw Qinyang's face, he didn't expect this big man from fantasy to be so young. "My lord," he tried to shout. "It's okay, it's just that my ability was out of control just now." Qinyang waved his hand and slowly opened his eyes. Finally getting used to Ibaraki Doji's transformation, Qinyang Vivi breathed a sigh of relief, and he turned his eyes to the old man. "Black flame," the old man said with a smile, "I haven't seen it before, what is it?" "There are things in the world that Rayleigh has never seen before." As soon as he finished speaking, Qinyang found that his voice was a little different, and he looked younger. Sure enough, it was recognized. Rayleigh shook his head and said, "I had this suspicion when you bid without hesitation at the auction venue." "Your suspicion is right. Compared to this, I am surprised that a master of your strength would go to auction yourself." Qinyang pondered Isho, reached out and took the deed of prostitution from the bald man. As soon as the thought moved, the black flames circulated on the right hand, and in a flash, the deed of betrayal turned to ashes in an instant. Pluto Rayleigh, the bald captain showed a hint of doubt. He always felt that he had heard it before. "The deputy captain of the Roger Pirates," Qinyang said calmly. "The vice captain of One Piece, King of Pirates." Hearing this, the bald man widened his eyes and looked at Rayleigh in disbelief. "Is that Rayleigh?" "Impossible, Rayleigh has disappeared for almost 10 years, why would be in a place like this?" Quote. He looked at Rayleigh, "Still unacceptable, why does someone like this appear at the auction, and it's still an auction item? Just for some wine money." Rayleigh haha Isho said, "Compared to this, who are you? What are your plans to buy me? I can say it first, I'm going to default. My name is Qin." Qinyang opened his mouth and suddenly changed. "No, my name is Ibaraki, and I'm a member of the Dream Pirates." Ibaraki, Rayleigh Vivi was startled. "Dream Pirates, I've heard a lot in recent days, a very mysterious pirate group. Your shadow demon also killed a Tenryubito." "That's right. Actually that's me." Qinyang murmured inwardly, but his face remained calm. "Mr. Rayleigh, I have already burned the deed of prostitution, and you are free. As for the 110,000 yuan, it is a gift for you." "Huh." Rayleigh glanced at Qinyang carefully. "Are you sure? I can promise you to do one thing for you." "It's no longer needed." Qinyang shook his head. He originally bought Rayleigh, intending to let the other party be his bodyguard, as long as 1 week, because he is not sure what the third transformation will be. What if it is a weak chicken? The mandatory transformation period is a full week. If it is a garbage transformation, it will be difficult for him to do it. However, it seems that it is no longer needed. One Punch Superman Ibaraki Doji. Just now, Qinyang has completely understood the ability of this transformation. 2-star Ibaraki Doji, with 2 abilities. The first one, Black Flame. The second is the Hand of Hell. Although there was no actual combat, Qinyang felt that even if Admiral came, he might not be able to get him. However, at this moment, a sneer came. "So you're hiding in such a place." A group of people from the evil shark pirates gathered around. The captain sneered and looked at Qinyang. "I wonder, how can a small pirate group like Tomahawk have a high of 400 million amount of money? There are people behind the scenes." After a pause, he made no secret of his killing intent. "Hand over the devil fruit." "You seem to be in trouble." Rayleigh laughed and said, I'll help you to solve the problem of selling the contract, how about a write-off? It's not him who is in trouble, Chin Young clicked, Marine is here. In the state of the big monster transformed, his perception ability is very outstanding. At this moment, he can hear footsteps hundreds of meters away. The neat footsteps are unique to the army. Hearing this, Rayleigh was stunned, and subconsciously released his perception. Observation Hockey. Quote. Split second, the entire Sabayati archipelago was within his perception. After a while, he showed a helpless smile. Tell you the good news, Marine has only 2 warships, but it's also bad news. On the 2 warships, there are Marine Admiral, and it's 2 people. Chapter 0023_make a fake. There is Marine Admiral, and it's 2 people. Hearing Rayleigh's words, Chin Young couldn't help being stunned. Marine really made a lot of money. Only when he heard the rumors of the Dream Pirates, he immediately sent 2 Admiral over, and he looked down on him too much. One-on-one, Chin Young felt that he was not false Admiral, and 2-on-1 would be a little troublesome. It's all this idiot who insists on talking about a dream cadre, and that's why Marine is attracted. Chin Young looked at the evil shark pirates, feeling a little unhappy. Even he himself is so low-key, but this group of imposters are fake. Sir, what should I do? The bald man asked quickly. I'll teach this group of people a lesson. Chin Young said calmly, and walked towards the evil shark pirates. He had just acquired a new ability and just used it to experiment. Then you have to hurry up. Rayleigh said solemnly. Up to 10 seconds, Marine's vanguard will arrive at Sabayati archipelago. Understood. Time was running out, and Chin Young didn't have time to keep his hands. As he took a step forward, black flames were burning on his right palm. But seeing this scene, Captain Evil Shark's complexion changed slightly, and he blurted out, it turned out to be a capable one. Have you eaten that fruit? Chin Young was too lazy to answer these words. He controlled the black flame and condensed it in the palm of his hand. This black fireball, in just 1 second, touched the size of an egg and swelled the size of a football, like a small black sun, with terrifying power brewing in it. Go to hell to repent. As soon as the words fell, Chin Young suddenly threw the black flame fireball out. The fireball rose when he saw the wind, and whistled past. When it reached the heads of the evil sharks, it was already like a huge dark celestial body. At this moment, everyone in the evil shark pirates felt the danger of death. The captain's eyes widened, and his heart was full of horror. He was a little remorseful, and at the same time very angry. This power should have belonged to him. Damn! Amidst the fury, a huge black flame fireball exploded. Boom! With a loud noise, the entire ground shook, and the black flames engulfed everything, engulfing more than 20 members of the evil shark pirates. Let's go. Rayleigh's eyes narrowed and he said, the sound of the explosion attracted Marine. They were going faster, and it would be too late to go. Let's go then. Hearing this, Chin Young moved and was about to evacuate, but just took a step, but Vivi froze again. It's not dead. Ibaraki Doji's perception ability is far beyond ordinary people, a bit like observation hockey. At this moment, Chin Young can feel that at the explosion point, there is still this breath. It's really not dead. Rayleigh was also startled, and then suddenly said, at the moment of the explosion, the man grabbed 2 scapegoats left and right, blocking most of the damage. Things were as he expected. When the black smoke dissipated, it was already a mess, full of scorched earth. But behind the scorched earth, there were 2 charred corpses around Captain Evil Shark's body, which blocked most of the damage for him. However, this is the case. At this moment, the captain of the evil shark has also been dying, and half of his feet have stepped into the coffin. His left side was almost destroyed, and only one eye remained on his face. This one-eyed looked at Chin Young, both frightened and angry. What kind of power is this? Just eating the devil fruit, does it have this level of power? His heart was bleeding, and this fruit should have belonged to him. Damn it! It hurts, he screamed. Chin-Yong raised his eyebrows and said somewhat unexpectedly, "Sure enough, the first time I used it, I couldn't control it as I wanted." He felt that the previous one was enough to destroy the opponent, but the control of the power was still lacking. If it wasn't for the fear of affecting the auction house, Chin-Yong could have done everything he could to destroy everything in a radius of 100 meters. "It's too late, someone is coming." At this time, Rayleigh said helplessly, moving at the speed of light, "It should be Kizaru." As soon as the voice fell, a golden flash was projected from the sky. The light suddenly stopped not far from Chin-Yong, and then countless light spots converged, gradually condensing into a tall figure. "It's terrifying, this explosive power. I came one step ahead, it's correct." Kizaru put his hands in his pockets, stood there leisurely, and looked around slowly. He first glanced at the half-dead Captain Evil Shark and said, "You are that dreamy cadre. What happened? It's so miserable that I'm dying." "Logia glint fruit ability, Admiral Kizaru." Captain Evil Shark's pupils shrank, and his face turned ashen in an instant. When he met Kizaru, who could move at the speed of light, he didn't even want to run away, and he couldn't escape at all. "Let me ask you, are you a dream cadre?" Kizaru was unmoved, and said with a crooked mouth, "The captain of the Evil Shark Pirates has a bounty of 130 million yuan. Judging from your current appearance, you don't look like a cadre. Dreamy shadow monsters dare to sneak into the Holy Land to kill Tenryubito. No matter how you look at it, it's not very decent." "I am not." If grabbing a life-saving straw, Captain Evil Shark said quickly, "I'm just a fox and a tiger, and I use a dreamy name to swindle. I'm really not a dreamer." "Well, it's too late." Kizaru's face was as usual, not surprised. "Is it true, someone will torture you?" No, forgive me." As if facing a life and death crisis, Captain Evil Shark trembled with fright. I'm really not I." At this moment, he hated why he was so mean, and even said that he was a dream cadre. He couldn't even imagine that it was just a name, not even sure if it was true or not. Marine would have an admiral class coming to catch him. At the same time, he also knew that if he didn't do something now, he would definitely fall into the hands of Marine's intelligence organization, but he died during the brutal torture. He doesn't want to die. Perhaps Yu Wang, who was trying to survive, made his thoughts burst, and in the midst of despair, he even saw a glimmer of hope in life. "I don't know where the strength is." Captain Evil Shark suddenly stood up, pointed at Chin-Yong, and said loudly, "Kizaru, I'm fake. He is the dream man. Because I'm pretending to be the dream cadre, so he wants to kill me." This, Kizaru snorted suspiciously, then looked at Chin-Yong. "You are a member of the Dream Pirates. Did you do the explosion here?" Seeing that he was targeting himself, Chin-Yong didn't rush to run, and the admiral level couldn't scare him. He immediately chuckled and said, "Although this idiot came to identify me with slanderous thoughts, maybe he just wanted to pull a back. But it doesn't matter, he guessed right, I am indeed a dreamer." Hearing this, Kizaru instantly revealed murderous intent. However, the next moment, a voice sounded, which shocked him all over. "This guy has a fate with me, can we stop here?" Voice. Kizaru's expression changed, and when he saw the face of the speaker, he was even more shocked. Pluto Rayleigh. Chapter 0024_Hand of Hell. Pluto Rayleigh. If there is anyone, just a name is enough to scare the current Marine Admiral, then, Pluto, is one. Kizaru was only a younger generation when Silva's Rayleigh rose to fame as the one-time co-captain of the One Piece King of Pirates. 12 years ago, One Piece King of Pirates Gul D. Roger conquered the Great Route, and as its left and right hand, Rayleigh also had the strength of the world. And 10 years ago, One Piece King of Pirates Roger was publicly executed. Since then, the Roger Pirates have been disbanded, and Rayleigh, the deputy captain, has completely disappeared. It can be said that Pluto Rayleigh is already a legendary figure. However, at this moment, Kizaru saw Rayleigh beside Chin-Yong, which had to be shocking. On the other side, the captain of the evil shark pirates was dumbfounded. He just slandered Qinyang with the idea of pulling people back, but in the end, the other party actually admitted it. Are you really a dream cadre? His voice trembled, feeling that his death was approaching. Cadre. Qinyang glanced at the man and said indifferently, it doesn't count. It's you who pretended to be a dream name and attracted Marine Admiral. This account will be settled with you. Hearing this, Captain Evil Shark was full of grief and anger. He actually pretended to be a dream cadre in front of the main lord. If he was himself, he would have slapped someone to death. What's more, he just transferred Kizaru's contradiction. More and more people offend to death. However, at this moment, the people present had no idea about him. Seeing the existence of Rayleigh, Kizaru immediately looked like a great enemy, with a solemn expression. Pluto Rayleigh, you want to protect this kid. He is a dreamer. You should know that the shadow demon of the dream killed a Tenryubito, or you have a relationship with the dream. Is it Roger's remnant? Hearing this, Rayleigh smiled and said, don't try it, I have nothing to do with Dream, I just owe him a little favor. Oh, do you think he'll believe it? Exactly, I got you two together. Voice fell, Kizaru's body emitted a burst of golden light, and with a puff, it scattered into countless light spots. These light spots move at the speed of light, and most people can't even see them clearly. But Qinyang can, he can feel it, and he can see it clearly. Kizaru turned into a photon fluid, and in an instant, it bullied his side. At the same time, the photons condensed, and a right leg emitting a dazzling golden light suddenly kicked towards his face. Dream boy, have you ever been kicked by the speed of light? Kizaru made a sound and seemed to attack Rayleigh, but he shot at Qinyang. That's not it. Qinyang stood there, motionless, as if he didn't care about the attack at all. Seeing that the speed of light kick was about to hit, Rayleigh's figure suddenly approached, and he kicked back and blocked Kizaru's speed of light kick. Boom! The collision of the two attacks suddenly produced huge waves, as if in a typhoon, and the bald man not far away was blown away dozens of meters away in one breath. Ibaraki kid, run away, I'll stop him. Rayleigh resisted Kizaru's light speed kick, but still had time to remind him. It's too late. Qinyang shrugged, with strands of black flames protecting his body from being attacked by energy. There was a battle close at hand, but he looked calm. Marine's army has arrived. I'm not going to run, just to try Marine Admiral's combat power. As soon as he finished speaking, a series of footsteps came, and in the blink of an eye, hundreds of sailors had come to the vicinity. The leader was wearing a justice coat and his face was grim. He glanced at the situation at the scene, and he had already guessed 7 or 8. Pluto Rayleigh. Akainu snorted coldly and said, what's going on, Kizaru? This kid is a member of Dream, you catch him, and I'll stop Rayleigh. Kizaru reminded, and then launched his attack again. After all, you are not the Hades of 10 years ago, you are old. He retracted his legs, clasped his hands together, and pulled to the sides. Suddenly, a golden lightsaber was held in his hands. Seeing Kizaru slashed with a sword, Rayleigh quickly dodged backwards, at the same time feeling a little helpless. He is indeed old. If he was at his peak when he was young, he was only a newly promoted Marine Admiral, and he could not contain him. This is a headache, Ibaraki boy, I can only contain one person, you can find your own way. At this moment, Akainu sneered at Isho, think of a way. Ridiculous. Attack me. As soon as he gave an order, hundreds of sailors raised their guns and aimed at Qinyang in unison. Akainu, are you playing a monkey game? If guns worked, wouldn't your marines dominate the world long ago? Qinyang sneered and suddenly raised his right hand. Hand of hell. With a soft drink, Qinyang turned his palms into claws, and suddenly the dark power filled and wreaked havoc. In the sky, there seems to be a special power gathering. Akainu's complexion changed slightly, and he shouted, all spread out. It's late. Boom. Like a thunderstorm on a rainy day, the dark power gathered above Marine's head suddenly turned into a huge pitch-black palm, and one claw grabbed it. This claw is beyond imagination, as if it came from the depths of hell, and before it falls on the top of the head, just the cold aura it exudes makes people feel creepy. What the hell is this? Run away. Help, Akainu Admiral. Many people shouted in horror. However, facing this kind of power for the first time, Akainu was stunned for a moment. At this moment, he missed the best opportunity. The next moment, the pitch-black giant claws fell. Boom! The violent dark power exploded, and in an instant, the entire marine was devoured. At the center of the giant claw's whereabouts, countless cracks appeared on the entire ground, and it was shot and sunk by more than 10 centimeters. This scene made Kizaru and Rayleigh in the battle all stop. What? Kizaru was taken aback, and he couldn't help feeling a touch of shock in his heart. Everyone in the dream is this kind of little monster. With this power, this guy is not a cadre. One paw, the group is destroyed. With such a domineering power, even if he was caught off guard, Kizaru had to admit that he underestimated Chinyang, and he underestimated Dream too much. Haha, Kizaru, Rayleigh laughed. Isho, your plan seems to have failed. Chapter 0025_Akainu who vomited blood. Kizaru, your plans fell through. Seeing Chinyang destroying Marine with one claws, Rayleigh was sure in his heart, and couldn't help but be surprised by this little brother's fighting power. The attack that suddenly came to the top of the head just now was shot with a paw, and those who responded slowly could not escape. Even Akainu was targeted because of a momentary distraction. A paw fell, and Akainu was shot into a pile of lava. At this moment, when the smoke and dust dissipated, the fiery red lava scattered all over the ground was slowly condensing, forming a human figure again. Without armament hockey, it doesn't hurt much to fight Logia. Seeing this, Chinyang couldn't help raising his eyebrows. If it wasn't for Logia's fluid feature that was immune to normal physical attacks, Akainu would have peeled off his skin if he didn't die. Damn it, what kind of power is that? It took a few seconds for Akainu to finally return to normal. He stared at Chinyang, very annoyed. Dignified Marine Admiral was smashed and smashed with one move, which is simply a great disgrace. Glancing away, he looked behind him again. All the Marines had fallen to the ground, not a single one was standing. Akainu became more and more angry. Chinyang chuckled and said, "And Shin, most of them should not die. I mainly attacked you, they were only stunned by the aftermath, at most fractures, internal injuries, and internal bleeding." For ordinary Marines, Chinyang has no grudges against him, and he can't commit a deadly attack. The existence of these Marines is to protect ordinary civilians. As long as he does not shoot at him, Chinyang will not deliberately kill him. It is enough to make the other party lose consciousness. As for the unlucky people, if they are shocked to death by the aftermath, there is nothing they can do. Chinyang feels that he is kind enough. But after hearing his words, Akainu sneered, "How arrogant, wait until I catch you and see if you still have the leeway." Speaking, the surrounding temperature rose rapidly. Chinyang's eyes looked, but saw that the air around Akainu was burned by the high temperature, as if even the space was distorted. Most people find it difficult to even breathe, but Chinyang also possesses the power of black flames, so he cannot detect the heat at all. Suddenly, Akainu got his hands on it. When he raised his right arm, it instantly turned into a huge lava hand, which protruded out, and suddenly, like a flame jet, spanning a distance of dozens of meters, it grabbed towards Chinyang. "I just want to be a pirate in peace. You have to make trouble with me. Tenryubito, who was killed by the shadow demon, go find the shadow demon." Chinyang pouted, and opened his mouth to sneer. "I almost forgot, you can't catch the shadow demon. He was in Sengoku's office last time, and he met you." "What? This?" Akainu's pupils shrank. "It really is him." Thinking of what happened in the office at the time, Akainu's anger skyrocketed, and he shot a little faster. Dark Hound. The big hand of the lava burned with flames, as red as the scorching sun, and grabbed it with one palm, majestic. The speed of this attack was extremely fast, and it was only an instant from when it was shot to when it arrived in front of Qin. Do you really think Logia is invincible? Think I can't kill you? Facing this blow, Qin didn't move a single step. His eyes narrowed, his right palm suddenly condensed dark power, and the next moment, he slapped the lava thug with one paw. Hand of Hell. Boom. The two attacks, one black and one red, collided, causing a deafening roar, but the result was beyond everyone's expectations. Akainu's lava hand was penetrated and shattered in less than a second, while Qin claw of hell suddenly swelled and became bigger in one breath, as if to tear the earth with one claw. Grabbed towards Akainu. Impossible. Akainu's eyes widened, his face shocked. Your fruit ability is even higher than mine. In addition to the restraint in terms of attributes, the most important thing in the battle between able people is the development level of the fruit ability, which is equivalent to the same thing as proficiency. You are only the magma fruit capable, and my flame is the fire of hell. The fire of hell burns everything. Ibaraki Doji is not a fruit power user, but a big monster. He uses demon power. Although there is no way to destroy Logia's fluid properties, it can still be done to cause damage. Seeing that the hand of hell was already approaching, Akainu didn't have time to think about it, and immediately ducked to the right. He knew that he was a fluid, and even if he was attacked, he would be fine, but in the face of this strange move, he did not dare to bear it again. However, just as he dodged to the right, he caught a glimpse of Qin playfulness out of the corner of his eyes. You're just paying Admiral like this, with such a poor fighting awareness, think I can only hit a hand of hell. When he heard the sound, Akainu realized that something was wrong. His eyes swept to the right, only to see the direction of the right hand. The dark power gathered out of thin air, and suddenly a hand of hell protruded from the darkness. One left and one right, two hands of hell attacked at the same time. Akainu's complexion changed greatly, and he didn't have time to dodge. His hands exploded with power at the same time, and they shot fiery red magma to both sides. However, this magma could not stop it for a moment, and it was shot out in an instant. The next moment, boom. As if swatting a fly to death, Akainu was slapped into a puddle in one breath under the attack of two hell hands, and became incapable of being a humanoid. Seeing this scene, the captain of the evil shark not far away was trembling with fright. He had only heard the madness of the fantasy shadow demon, but today he saw the horror of another fantasy. The face of Admiral, he can be so strong, and Marine can't help him. Monster. He trembled inwardly and said frantically to himself, can't see me, can't see me. He didn't know where the strength came from and wanted to get up and run away. But at this moment, a black flame came over and devoured him in an instant. Qin glanced at him, snorted, and said, I don't need to kill ordinary sea soldiers, but it's not a pity for you to die. After a pause, he turned and quickly evacuated. Goodbye, Akainu, when I master armament hockey, I will come back to you. With a loud laugh, Qin took a few meters and left quickly. Where to run? At this moment, Kizaru retreated with one blow, and the next moment, he turned into a photon fluid and intercepted it in Qin direction. However, Rayleigh laughed and kicked the streamer with a kick, directly smashing Kizaru's fluid and making it out of shape. This kick, Kizaru himself was kicked 100 meters away, and he could only watch Qin escape. The old man has been living in seclusion. I will take action today. Don't you Marines come to trouble me, see you again. As soon as he moved, Rayleigh disappeared. Whizzing. But within a few seconds, the two figures had disappeared without a trace. Damn it. Seeing this, Akainu, who had just recovered his human form, spit out bruised blood. Ahem, that black flame can actually hurt me. Chapter 0026 Hockey's Power. Half an hour later, Qin and Rayleigh came to a bar. In fact, They had already run away without a trace, and it was only because they were afraid that someone from Marine would follow them, so they spared it for a long time. Hotel, Chin-young is not going to go back, that kind of place. Marine can find it by just checking, so he followed Rayleigh to his house. Rayleigh's home is a small bar with the name, Shaki's Rip-Off Bar, on the door, located in Area 13 of the Sabayati Archipelago. "Why do you follow me?" Rayleigh said helplessly as he pushed open the door of the bar. "I helped you once, and the favor has been paid off." "Mr. Rayleigh, don't be so heartless. How can we say that we are also comrades in fighting against Marine Admiral?" Chin-young chuckled and walked in generously. There was not a single customer in the bar, only a proprietress was standing behind the bar. The proprietress looked in her 20s and looked very young. When she saw someone entering the door, she hugged Shang in one hand and a lady's fine cigarette in the other, and looked over. "Rayleigh, you still know how to come back." She glanced at Rayleigh, then looked at Chin-young. "I have to say that Ibaraki Doji's appearance is still very handsome." The proprietress took a few more glances, and then said with a smile, "Who is this little brother?" "Ibaraki." Chin-young reported his name. "Hello, madam, I'll probably be here to disturb you for a few days." Hearing this, Rayleigh shook his head helplessly and said, "He is a member of the Dream, and I just met before." "Dream? The Dream pirates that have gained fame in the last few days?" The proprietress's eyes lit up. "The Dream pirates are very mysterious. At present, except for one shadow demon who has been offered a reward of 500 million, most of the other members are fans." Unexpectedly, one appeared in front of me. However, Chin-young's youthful appearance is a bit unbelievable. To see her doubts, Rayleigh said with a smile, "He is very strong. He had a fight with a Kainu in Area 11 before and injured a Kainu." At this point, Rayleigh was also quite surprised. He was sure that Chin-young did not use armament hockey, but it could damage Logia's fluid to a certain extent, which was beyond common sense. Winning the Marine Admiral. At this moment, the proprietress widened her eyes and stared at Chin-young for a while. "No, it's just taking advantage of the move." Chin-young shook his head. "I can't win now. If I continue to fight, and wait for a Kainu to figure out my move, I will lose." To truly win a Kainu, Chin-young felt that at least he had to learn armament hockey, or upgrade the 2-star Ibaraki to 4-star or even 5-star. As it is now, if a Kainu vomits a mouthful of blood, it is the limit. If you continue to fight, you will definitely be counter-killed. But listening to him say this, the proprietress smiled and said, "The name of Dream is very loud now. Xiao Ibaraki, you said you would live here for a few days. No problem, you can live there as long as you want, but accordingly, you have to answer me a question." "What's the problem?" "I received a call from Little Hancock yesterday. She told me to pay attention to a sea dragon, who can speak, has the same intelligence as a human, and can transform into a human shape." The lady boss said with a smile, "Is he your dream person?" "Ah." Chin-young laughed dryly, then remembered that the Empress and the proprietress in front of her knew each other. After thinking about it, he could only say, "Yes, Heilong is indeed our dream person." "Where is he?" the proprietress asked again. "Although I don't know how it offended Little Hancock, she is very concerned about it. More than just caring, the Empress now wants to whip his dragon tendons and peel off his dragon skin." As soon as he thought about it, Chin-young replied without blushing and heartbeat, "I don't know. Lord Heilong is a cadre. Shenlong sees the beginning but does not see the end. Maybe he will play in some sea area." "Really?" After some inquiries, I did not get too much information. However, the proprietress didn't care either. On the contrary, it was the first time she saw the Empress being so devoted to a certain character, and she was more curious about what Heilong did to the Empress. This curiosity down for a while, the proprietress smiled again and said, "My name is Shaki, Ibaraki, you can call me Shaki. In the past few days, you'd better not go out and hurt Admiral, you are a dreamer again. Man, Marine is afraid to take control of the Sabayati archipelago and conduct an interrogation. Don't worry, Shaki, I also want to practice quietly. Chin-young nodded. As for what he was thinking, only he himself knew. That's good. Ibaraki, what would you like to drink? Have a whiskey, thank you. When the proprietress went to prepare drinks, Chin-young looked at Rayleigh. Rayleigh sat on the recliner, picked up a newspaper and read it. Mr. Rayleigh, I have something to ask of you. Huh, forget the trouble. No trouble, Chin-young sneered. I played against Akainu just now. As you can see, without hockey, I can't win. Do you want to learn hockey? Rayleigh raised his eyebrows, feeling very strange. With your strength, it's rare that you don't know hockey. After a pause, he said again, in your dream pirates, no one taught you. No, everyone is idle all over the world, and it's very troublesome to find them. Chin-young said nonsense. Rayleigh, after listening to his words, had a concept of the Dream Organization. The members of this organization are very strong, but the organization is relatively loose, unlike ordinary pirate groups, which will gather together. It is not known what the purpose of this organization is. After all, so far, only 3 members have appeared in front of the world. Thinking of this, Rayleigh shook his head and said, hockey is not that easy to learn. With zero foundation, it will take at least 1 to 2 years to master the basics of 3-color hockey. Even if conqueror hockey is put aside, only armament and observation hockey, you have to study for a long time too. Speaking of this, he paused before he couldn't help but say, don't say it, you have to stay here for a year or 2. How could it be? Chin-young smiled and said solemnly, don't worry, I'm very smart, I'll learn it in a day or 2. Hearing this, Rayleigh's mouth twitched, and he was speechless. Chapter 0027 _ The Arrival of the 4 Emperors. Just when Chin-young asked Rayleigh to teach him hockey, on the other side, Marine, after some rest, started an investigation and search of Sabayati Archipelago. Novel Literature Network. 11. A plaza somewhere. Akainu sat on a boulder and reported the mission overview. The roar of Marshal Sengoku came from the other end of the phone. Idiot! What do you mean? All the sailors you brought over were injured, and they let them run away. What are you and Kizaru doing? His mouth, Akainu couldn't find an excuse. Chin-yang's strength was indeed unexpected, but if he hadn't underestimated the enemy, he wouldn't have been so easily escaped. Akainu himself knows this best. Sengoku scolded for a while. He calmed down. That dreamy member, isn't that Shadow Demon? No, Akainu replied in a deep voice, although they let people run away, we caught the captain of the Tomahawk Pirates and learned from him that the man was Ibaraki. At that time, the battle broke out too fast, and the bald man didn't have time to dodge, so he was affected by the aftermath of the battle. When he came back to his senses, Marine had already caught him. How's your strength? Sengoku asked after a long silence. First-class combat power. If you don't understand it, it's easy to suffer losses, but it's not at the level of Admiral level. If you do it again, he won't be able to escape. Can't reach the Admiral level. Sengoku groaned, but Sengoku was full of headaches, just an ordinary member, not even a cadre. He has combat power close to the Admiral level. Where did this dream pirates come from? Quote. In this regard, Akainu has nothing to say. Akainu didn't tell the truth about the Shadow Demon's appearance in the Marshal's office. With a sigh, Sengoku continued. There is information that the Red Hair Pirates are sailing to the Sabayati Archipelago, and it is expected to arrive in a week at most. Red-haired Shanks. Akainu's eyes flashed. Before they arrive, you should complete the search as soon as possible. At that time, remember not to have too much conflict with each other. The entire Sabayati Archipelago is not small, with 79 areas. It is not easy to search within a week. Of course, it's not the most important thing. The point is that there is Rayleigh, the Hades, hiding here, and God knows what will happen. Akainu was very unhappy with Sengoku's attitude of temporarily avoiding the edge, and the word justice on his coat seemed to be mocking him. Also, Don't worry about Pluto Rayleigh for the time being. If we want to capture him, we will also pay a heavy price. By the way, let Kizaru come back. The Shichibukai thing still needs someone to preside over. There are only 4 people, and there are still 3 vacancies. In order to confront the 4 emperors of the New World, Shichibukai's power is indispensable. After saying this, Sengoku hung up the phone. Akainu's face was ashen, and he punched the boulder he was sitting on. Suddenly, the large boulder that was enough for several people to sit side by side shattered in an instant. As the 4 emperors more important than the dream pirates? After a while, he returned to his coldness. He didn't even have time to say the words to ask the headquarters to transfer troops. In a week, even if you dig 3 feet in the ground, you will find people. Time flew by, and 5 days passed in a blink of an eye. These 5 days, Marine issued a notice in the Sabayati archipelago, wanting Qin Yang, and his simple portraits were all over the street. For a while, all the pirates on the whole island were a little nervous, and even ordinary civilians felt an aura about to come. Although Akainu wanted to dig 3 feet in the ground, the reality didn't allow it, and he didn't have that many troops. During the 5-day search, apart from making the atmosphere on the island dignified, he didn't even see a single hair of Qin Yang. At the moment, Qin Yang is staying in Shaki's small bar, quietly practicing hockey. Hockey is the potential power possessed by all human beings in this world. This power is an innate ability. After 5 days of practice, Qin Yang found nothing. I'm not from this world, so I can't feel it. He had to be so suspicious. Seeing that he was not in a good mood, Rayleigh put down the newspaper, looked up at him, and said with a smile, "Do you really want to learn in a day or 2? Cough. Qin Yang laughed dryly and said, "I just want to learn armament, observation hockey and conqueror for now. I don't need it yet." Hockey is divided into 3 kinds, namely conqueror, observation hockey, armament. Among them, conqueror is the most special. It is a special power possessed by only 1 person in a million people. Only those who have the aptitude of a king can awaken. Observation hockey, in Qin Yang's opinion, is a radar. It can magnify human hearing countless times and perceive targets outside the field of view. Of course, observation hockey can also do other things, such as predicting the opponent's attack. The last is armament. Armament hockey is the same as the name. It enhances personal defense. It acts like invisible armor. It can also evolve into attack power and strengthen killing ability. At the same time, it also has the most critical point. Logia's fluid. Qin Yang needs it right now, so he has been trying to awaken armament for 5 days. Seeing his headache, Rayleigh said with a smile, "Armament and observation hockey, everyone can master. As long as they practice, they can learn it. It's just a matter of time. You don't have to worry." "The problem is, I can't even perceive the hockey you said." Qin Yang rolled his eyes. He couldn't tell Rayleigh that he was not from this world. "You can't feel it because you don't have enough vigor." Rayleigh Isho said, "You have experienced too little, and you have not accumulated enough vigor." "What do you mean?" "You should know that people in high positions have a special aura on their bodies for a long time. When he stares at you, you will feel abnormal." Rayleigh explained, "Let's use an analogy, kill countless people. Pirates also naturally carry a murderous aura. These are all spirits, but spirits are just spirits, and it takes practice to condense them into hockey." Quote. So that's the case. Qin Yang was stunned. Although you can learn armament sooner or later through practice, it will take longer. At this time, Rayleigh put down the newspaper, got up and said, "So, if you really want to learn quickly, go to a new world with that person, that's it." "That person?" Qin Yang asked suspiciously. "Calculate the time, it should be time." Rayleigh laughed. "Come with me." Hearing this, Qin Yang immediately followed. The 2 returned to the tavern, but saw a group of pirates sitting in the usually deserted tavern. One of the red-haired youths, sitting in front of the bar, crossed Erlang's legs, chatting and laughing with Shaki. As if feeling something, the red-haired young man looked back at the door. When he saw Rayleigh, his eyes lit up. Rayleigh, long time no see. Seeing this person, Qin Yang opened his mouth and said in surprise, "Four Emperor's red-haired Shanks." Chapter 0028_Go to Fishman Island. Sitting in front of the bar, the young man's red hair was very conspicuous. Novel Literature Network. This person is famous, Qin Yang knows it naturally. Shanks, nicknamed the Red Hair, is one of the four emperors who rule the world in the New World of the Great Root. With red hair and a well-proportioned figure, he has 3 claw-shaped scars on his left eye and stubble around his mouth. At this moment, he is holding a bottle of wine in his right hand, and his left sleeve is empty. When he saw Qin Yang, his eyes suddenly lit up. "It's you, Ibaraki from the Dream Pirates." "Huh." Qin Yang was startled. "How do you know?" "I just landed in Sabayati Archipelago, and the streets are full of your wanted portraits." Shanks was outspoken, and his words showed great curiosity about dreams. "Your shadow demons are so bold, they even dared to sneak into the Holy Land and assassinate Tenryubito." Quote. Hesitating, Qin Yang shook his head and said, "It's just to make a little money. Our dream is very poor. As long as 500 million, we can buy Tenryubito's head." "How about it, Redhead? Do you have anyone you want to kill? For Rayleigh's sake, a discount can be given." Hearing this, the originally noisy tavern suddenly quieted down. After a full 5 or 6 seconds, all the pirates laughed. There was a fat pirate who was nibbling on a chicken leg. At the moment, he seemed to be laughing furiously. "Boss, I like this kid, crazy enough." Crazy enough to qualify. Qin Yang rolled his eyes, but he was serious. He just made a small fortune before, and he spent 400 million before it was hot. "I'm not interested in men, especially when you're so fat." Listening to his teasing, the fat pirate was not angry, just laughed. The redhead said enthusiastically, Come, drink. Shaki, a few more bottles, I'll treat you." This, Shaki shook his head, glanced at all the pirates in the tavern, and turned to get the wine. At this moment, Rayleigh suddenly frowned and said, "Shanks, where did your left hand go?" The redhead glanced at Rayleigh and was silent for a moment before grinning. "Isho, I bet it on the new age." Huh, Rayleigh didn't know why. What kind of enemy is a man of your strength who can cut off your left hand? Rayleigh-san, it was not cut off by the enemy. The redhead took a sip of wine and smiled freely. "I searched all over the world for the will of D, and I finally found it. I put my left hand and that straw hat together. Left with the little boy." Scheming boy. Hearing what he said, Qin Yang couldn't help slandering in the bottom of his heart. He knew something about the redhead situation. The opponent's left arm was bitten off by an offshore king in a small village in East Blue. And the little boy mentioned in his mouth is the protagonist of the future era, Monkey D. Luffy. It is precisely because of this past incident in his childhood that Luffy has become a pirate, pursued the footsteps of Red Hair, and became the goal and dream of One Piece, King of Pirates. Seeing that he didn't want to say more, Rayleigh said helplessly, "Everyone will be surprised. When you return to the New World, those entrenched pirates know this news and will definitely challenge your throne of 4 emperors. Ha ha ha, whoever wants to come and get it." The redhead didn't care, sitting on the swivel chair with Erlang's legs crossed, drinking a small wine, free and easy, arbitrary, and informal. It seems that pirates should be like this, live unrestrainedly. Seeing this, Rayleigh also laughed and said, 12 years ago, you were only a newcomer on the Roger ship. In a blink of an eye, you are now the 4 emperors famous in the sea. Times have changed." He sighed with emotion, and sounded like something, and said, "By the way, I ask you one thing." "Rayleigh-san wants to ask me one thing." The redhead was startled. "Please say it, you're welcome." "About him." Rayleigh glanced at Ibaraki and said, "He wants to learn armament hockey in the short term, but he doesn't have enough courage, so he will go to your ship and go to the New World with you." It turns out that this is indeed the fastest way. The redhead nodded. "Also, now Marina's investigating Sabayati Archipelago. Ibaraki is on your boat, and Marine doesn't dare to search, so he can leave right under Akainu's nose. Small things, he is very appetizing to me, I will help with this. The redhead readily agreed, without any hesitation. Here, things have basically been negotiated. Chin-Yong couldn't help but laugh, thank you so much. When are you leaving? Tomorrow, the first stop will be Fishman Island, which is 20,000 meters under the sea, just below the red soil continent. Don't need coating? Chin-Yong asked suspiciously. The so-called coating is to coat a special layer of bubbles on the surface of the ship, which allows the ship to sail under the sea. Usually this process takes a week or even longer. One night is enough, Rayleigh explained. He has the name of the 4 emperors, and the coders on the island dare not help him. A dozen people can finish it in one night. Chin-Yong was speechless for a while, as he was famous and good at doing things. Rayleigh, if I remember correctly, does the coating too, but it takes him a week for a boat to do it alone. Come on, drink first, Ibaraki, I'll try your drink. The redhead was very enthusiastic, and he threw a bottle of wine over with a flick of his hand. Chin-Yong clicked his tongue and slammed open the bottle cap. Cheers! Cheers! A group of pirates toasted and drank like a banquet. In the blink of an eye, the next day, Chin-Yong put on a cloak and followed the red-haired pirates to the dock. I walked all the way, but everyone who saw it hid away in fear, especially the pirates, who did not dare to approach within 100 meters. The name of the 4 emperors shocked the world. Even Akainu, as if he didn't see it, let the redhead leave. Board the ship from a distance, Akainu listened to the report of his subordinates, his face was ashen. Dignified Marine Admiral, but can't do anything, it's really embarrassing. A middle-aged man with the rank of colonel whispered. Akainu Admiral, this is also impossible. In this era, the evil party is very powerful, and any of the 4 emperor pirates has a head to compete with our marine headquarters. Strength, not fully prepared, not suitable for conflict with them. Humph. Akainu snorted coldly, narrowed his eyes, and watched the red-haired pirates sail away. We are justice. Justice may be late, but it will never be absent. Pirates, be damned. Akainu didn't say what he said in his heart. After this incident, he had a perception of his own lack of strength. Go, keep searching. Chapter 0029_Lord, can you come and save me? When I open the writing software every day, I will subconsciously click on the God-level player of the black basket to prepare a new chapter, and then I find that the old book is over hollow square O. By the way, there was an error in the previous chapter. Fishman Island is 10,000 meters under the sea, not 20,000 meters. Close black lens bracket. Akainu continued to stay in the Sabayati archipelago in an attempt to capture Chin-Yong, who had injured him. However, Chin-Yong had already boarded the red-haired boat and headed to Fishman Island, destined for Marine to beat the bamboo basket to nothing. Fishman Island is located directly below the Holy Land Mariajoy, in the 10,000-meter deep sea. Standing on the deck of the ship, Chin-Yong looked at the gradually shrinking Sabayati archipelago, always feeling that he had forgotten something. What's the matter, Ibaraki? At this moment, the red hair came over and said with a smile, are you worried about safety? Don't worry, although the accident rate in deep-sea navigation is as high as 70%, but that is the first time to go to Fishman. As far as the ships on the island are concerned, we are all veterans and will be fine. Quote. No, I remember. Chin-Yong touched his chin, and finally remembered, I have a younger brother who was caught by Marine. Huh. Chin-Yong said helplessly. 6 days ago, because of something, I was found by Marine, Esakainu, and had a fight with him. Although I ran away after that, a younger brother who was following me was arrested. Oh, the redhead raised his eyebrows, then it's hard to do. 6 days have passed, and that person should have been imprisoned in the deep-sea prison. The deep-sea prison, known as the most powerful prison in the world that no one can break, is one of Marine's 3 major institutions. These 3 institutions are Marine Headquarters, Marineford, Deep Sea Prison, Impelton, and Annie's Lobby, Annie's Lobby. It's not that it can't be saved. Chinyong wondered if it was necessary. The bald captain of the Tomahawk Pirates, as a younger brother, is just so-so, and his level is too bad, but after all, the other party is caught because of him, and it doesn't seem very good to leave it alone. Find a time to see the situation. My forced transformation period is still a few hours away, and it can be lifted once noon is over. The shadow demon can travel through the past in an instant. No matter where the bald man is, Chinyong can find it, so whether it can be saved or not is really in his mind. Chinyong decided to take a look later. Thinking of this, Chinyong chuckled. Redhead, tell me how the new world is now. Hearing this, the redhead patted his shoulder and said with a hearty smile, beyond this, let me introduce the crew to you first. Next, a group of pirates held a banquet on the deck. Chinyong actually got to know each other with a group of red-haired cadres. As a cadre of the 4 Emperor Pirates, each of them is very powerful and should not be underestimated. Is slightly inferior to the legendary Whitebeard Pirates. After eating and drinking, Chinyong returned to his room. Thought about it, the transformation of the big monster Ibaraki Doji was released. The next moment, he transformed into a shadow monster, and endless black smoke emanated from the body. He didn't dare to be too messy. After all, he was on a red-haired boat, and he didn't want to reveal that Ibaraki and Shadow Demon were actually the same person. Time is limited, go and see the situation. Speaking softly, Chinyong slowly closed his eyes, and after a slight dizziness, he had appeared in a prison. The air quality of the prison is very poor, but it all exudes the smell of decay. Chinyong looked at the situation in the cell. There was only one person in the cell. The bald man was shackled and sat cross-legged. He looked very stunned, his mouth opened and closed, and he was talking to himself weakly. Is it dead? Suddenly, a ghostly voice sounded, and the next moment, a wisp of black smoke drifted past, and the shadow demon's figure appeared. Ah! The bald man was startled, then his eyes widened, and he said in disbelief, Master Ying, you were also caught in. It's over, I still hope that you can save me out. Quote. He looked sad. Chinyong kicked him angrily, if your father is arrested, it is impossible for me to be arrested. Just because Marine wants to arrest me. On this point, Chinyong didn't say much. It was impossible for Marine to catch the shadow demon. After all, he could instantly move to any corner of the world, and Whitebeard couldn't catch him when he came. Hearing this, the bald man was shocked, then he got up in surprise, saved Chinyang's legs, and said with snot and tears, Master Ying, Master, you have to save me. Those bastards in Marine actually put me in the deep sea prison. This is going to lock me up for the rest of my life. Pause, he said again. I listened to your instructions and took care of Mr. Ibaraki, but I didn't expect to be affected by the battle between him and Akainu if I didn't pay attention. Lord, you have to save me. I'm not free now, you just stay here. Chinyang's eyes twitched. This guy's face was too thick, he came up and hugged his thighs. If it was a girl, he could still accept it. He was a bald man, which was disgusting. I'll save you when I'm done with the matter at hand. Don't worry, the deep-sea prison, I'll come and leave if I want. It's easy to save you. Really, really. The bald man seemed to see the lighthouse of life. He swears that if he can go out, he will follow the shadow demon uncle and follow him, and he will definitely eat and drink spicy food. Legend has it that the deep-sea prison, which has never escaped from prison, is just like a back garden to the shadow demon. Master Ying, you are my idol. You are the sun, and you are the beacon. In the future, if you let my brother go east, he will never dare to go half a step west. You must come and save me. The bald man quickly racked his brains and began to flatter him. Chinyong was speechless after hearing it for a long time, then waved his hand and said, I'll leave when I have time, there are still things to do. As soon as the voice fell, Chinyang's body began to dissipate like smoke. Bald man didn't dare to have any dissatisfaction, he quickly nodded and smiled and said, Go slowly, you can definitely come again. When he opened his eyes, Qin Yang had already returned to the boat. The numb words still echoed in his ears, and he couldn't help shivering again, and suddenly regretted it. Shaking his head, Qin Yang did not intend to rescue him for the time being, so he immediately sat down with his knees crossed and began to practice hockey. A few hours later, there was a knock on the door. Ibaraki, Fishman Island, here we come. Chapter 0030_Mermaid Princess. Ibaraki, Fishman Island has arrived. The knock on the door sounded, Qin Yang's thoughts moved, and he got up and went to the gate of opening. The person standing at the door is named Usopp, a sniper of the red-haired pirates. This man has dreadlocks and is very enthusiastic. At the same time, he is also the first red-haired crew member. It's so fast, we're on Fishman Island in a blink of an eye. Qin Yang muttered in surprise. He remembered that in the original book, the Straw Hat Pirates came to Fishman Island. That was a danger. A small mistake would lead to the group's destruction. Shaking his head, he walked out of the room and followed Usopp to the deck. As soon as they got out of the cabin, the two of them were immediately squinted by the dazzling sunlight. Qin Yang looked up and saw a huge light source above his head. That is not the sun, but Sun Tree Eve. This giant tree of eternity seems to have existed forever. It absorbs the sunlight above the sea surface and releases it from its roots 10,000 meters below the seabed, which illuminates this deep sea area. At this moment, the voice of Fantasy Jean sounded in my mind. Scanned mysterious power very huge. What? Qin Yang was a little surprised. This power comes from overhead. The distance is more than 1,000 meters. Because the power is so huge, it can be felt from such a distance. The top of the head, isn't that the young tree Eve? Qin Yang opened his mouth, a little incredulous. Could the tree also have the same effect as a devil fruit? Yes, but it can't be absorbed at the moment. Fantasy Jean replied rigidly. If it can be absorbed, at least one transformation can be upgraded to a full star. Why? For example, can an ordinary human eat an elephant in one go? Fantasy Jean's voice was indifferent. This analogy is simple and easy to understand. In short, the Fantasy Jean is not strong enough to absorb the power of Poplar Eve. In other words, I have to become stronger first. Qin Yang suddenly felt helpless. There was a treasure mountain, but he couldn't dig it for a while. He made up his mind that when his fantasy genes became strong enough in the future, he would come to absorb Yangshu. As for whether the absorption will lead to the loss of sunlight on the seabed, this is a problem. The big deal is to bring Fishman Island to the sea. Speaking of which, the Queen of Fishman Island, her dream seems to be this, and she later died because of it. Are you stunned? Suddenly, a red-haired laughter came. Everyone will be stunned when they see the grand occasion under the sea for the first time. Qin Yang gave a perfunctory hum, and then turned his attention to the front of the ship. The pirate ship is sailing towards an underwater island. The island floats in the air, and a huge double-layer bubble film shield surrounds the entire island. From a distance, it seems to be a fantasy world. In the center of the huge bubble film, there is a circular opening, where is the entry and exit channel, and its size is large enough for large ships to pass. At this moment, the army in charge of guarding has discovered the approach of the pirate ship. Fishman, with a dark blue complexion, was shocked and said, "That's the Four Emperors, the banner of the red-haired pirates. If something happens, go and report to His Majesty the King." It seems that we have already discovered us. Qin Yang's ear moved, and he even noticed the abnormal sound from a distance. Be careful, Fishman living on Fishman Island is not very friendly to humans. A middle-aged man with a cigarette grinned. This person's name is Ben Beckman, one of the cadres of the Red Hair Pirates, and the bounty is still above the Shadow Demon. However, we should be welcomed. Ziahaha Isho, who became a fat ball, said, "The boss has been here before, and he knows the king here." A group of people were talking and laughing, and the ship had entered the circular passage. For the red-haired pirates, the Immigration Bureau of Fishman Island did not dare to be embarrassed and allowed them to log in. Soon, the group was down to earth again, and officially set foot on the land of Fishman Island. However, at the dock where the ship was docked, Chin-yong saw the marine warship. Why is Marine in such a place? Chin-yong couldn't help asking. It's probably about Shichibukai, the red-haired replied in a deep voice. In order to fight against the pirates in the New World, Marine needs Shichibukai's power. According to the information I got, there are only 4 positions, and 3 positions are still vacant. They will come. Here, 9 times out of 10, it is to win over a person. Quote. So it is. Chin-yong nodded, knowing who this person was. Who will be on Fishman Island as the Seaman? Jinbei, the captain of the Fishman pirates, with a bounty of 250 million. Marine is here, I'm afraid your activities will be inconvenient. The redhead said. Next, I'm going to visit the King of Dragon Palace City, what are your plans? I'll move freely. Chin-yong shrugged, there must be people from Marine in Longgongcheng, it's not convenient for me to be with you. This is not to say that Chin-yong is afraid of Marine, but there is no need to meet him. Once they meet, should he kill or kill him? Then be careful, I will contact you when you leave. The redhead is not hypocritical, nodding in agreement. Immediately, Shuangfeng moved temporarily apart, the red-haired group went to visit the king, while Chin-yong moved at will. There are still relatively few humans here, so I have to keep a low profile. Tightening his cape, Chin-yong walked towards the prosperous area of Fishman Island. Suddenly, he felt something approaching rapidly. What? Chin-yang's eyes narrowed, his eyes were quick and his hands were quick, and he grabbed it with a swipe. It was a letter, and it was an envelope in the shape of a love heart. Chin-yong guessed that it was something like a love letter. Even if caught by him, this love letter seems to be controlled by some kind of force, constantly trying to get out of his grasp. With a chuckle, Chin-yong opened it directly. Dear Platinum Princess, I like you so much, we should love each other, why don't you accept me? Vander Deacon, who loves you so much. The font is distorted, and it looks like it was written by a man. Chin-yong pouted, with this level of writing, I still want to flirt with girls, but I still have an attitude of accusation, don't you know that I have made a big taboo? Speaking of which, Princess Shirahoshi should be 6 years old now. Crazy, Lien Xiao Lolita won't let it go. Princess Shirahoshi, the mermaid princess of Fishman Island, in Chin-yang's impression, seems to be a timid crybaby, but her beauty when she grows up is comparable to that of a beauty emperor. I smell business. After thinking about it, Chin-yong suddenly had a good idea. He said, a black flame ignited, and the love letter was burnt out. After that, Chin-yong seemed to have temporarily forgotten about this incident and continued to hang out on Fishman Island. When night was about to fall, he found a hotel to check in. After confirming that the door was locked, Chin-yong transformed into a shadow demon. Immediately afterwards, a plume of black smoke fluttered from the window, towards the Dragon Palace city overhead. Chapter 0031-Infiltrate Ryugu Castle. Ryugu Castle is located right above Mermaid Island and is the residence of King Neptune. Novel Literature Network. Fishman Island has air, clouds, and sun. The bottom is the ocean, the middle layer is the land, the sky is above, and above the sky is the Dragon Palace. Chin-yong flew up several hundred meters before arriving at the entrance. The entrance was a spiral door with a red button beside it, probably something resembling a doorbell. In the normal way of passing, you need to press the doorbell and wait for the insider to open it. But Chin-yong sneaked in, so why did he need so much trouble? As a shadow demon, he could ignore even physical attacks. It was just a mere door, and he directly got in through the tiny gap. As soon as you enter the spiral door, there is a layer of bubble film behind the bubble film, and the convenience behind the bubble film is seawater, and the Dragon Palace city is in the seawater. Chin-yong is not a fruit person, and he is not afraid of seawater, so he went straight through it, and then followed the transparent pipe, all the way up until he reached the gate of Dragon Palace city. When we got here, we could already see the soldiers walking and patrolling. Basically all of them were fishmen, standing on both feet and holding weapons. It is night now, but the Dragon Palace city is brightly lit, with many glowing beads emitting a scorching light, reflecting the entire Dragon Palace city like a fairyland. I'm rich, these beads are luminous pearls. It's not like that, they should be very valuable. Do you want to dig a few? Qin admired it for a while, and couldn't help but move a little. Forget it, it's hard to carry if you dig it. If you want to take it away, you can run away. Shadow demons can't carry items and jump through space. Let's find someone first. If the shadow demon could carry items through, he wouldn't have to spend money to buy devil fruits. He would go straight to Tenryubito's house to loot. How refreshing. Qin has always felt a pity for this. He estimated that only after reaching 5 stars, shadow demons can carry humans, or objects directly jump into space. Find someone first. Shaking his head, Qin continued to enter the Dragon Palace. The characteristics of the shadow demon make it difficult for him to be easily discovered, and at most soldiers on patrol can see a wisp of black smoke drifting by. After a while, Qin entered a banquet hall. In the hall, all the members of the red-haired pirates were there. Besides them, there was also a rear admiral from Marine. This rear admiral is a female, dressed in a sexual sense, showing a big leg, and a black 8-legged spider stabbed on the outside of the left big leg, wearing a justice coat. Seemed to feel something unusual. The female rear admiral's sixth sense made her glance at the corner where Qin was, but there was nothing there, which made Vivi frown. A little familiar, this woman is. Qin hid in the shadows, undetected. Is it Momoshiki? Momoshiki, in Qin impression, is Vice Admiral of Marine Headquarters, one of the admiral candidates, with high strength. Of course, that was 12 years later, but now he is just a rear admiral. This woman is quite powerful. Now she is probably in her early 20s, and she can actually get into rear admiral. Qin paid attention for a while, then looked at the main seat of the banquet. Sitting there was a huge mermaid. In appearance, it was a coelacanth fishman. Neptune, king of Ryugu Castle on Fishman Island. Fishman of Fishman Island called him Poseidon, and Knight of the Sea. Beside Neptune, there is also a young and beautiful golden fishman, only 1.45 meters tall, sitting next to Neptune, one big and one small. The difference is huge. This woman has a good heart and will die in 2 years. Shaking his head, Qin didn't pay too much attention. He sneaked in tonight. His secondary purpose was to find King Neptune. However, there are too many people right now, so it's not suitable to expose and meet, especially with the existence of Marine. Let's find Princess Shirahoshi first. With a thought, Qin has quietly left. The Dragon Palace city is quite big, and Qin spent a lot of effort to find Princess Shirahoshi's boudoir. The decor of the room is lovely, with pink tones throughout. On a huge white soft bed, a fishman lay quietly. Although she is only 6 years old, Princess Shirahoshi is already over 4 meters long. A human woman, with lavender ribbons hanging from her shoulders, long wavy and flowing pink hair, and fish-shaped hair accessories, probably because she is still young. Said to be pink, one tender and cute. And her lower body is a fish tail, pink. Lying on the bed at the moment, the fish tail swayed from side to side, and seemed to be in a good mood. Qin got closer, but saw that the other party was reading a picture book story about adventures on the ocean. What is it like above the sea? Princess Shirahoshi whispered to herself. Qin floated above her head, so close, the little girl didn't even notice anything unusual. On the sea, it's very cruel. After thinking about it, Qin said directly. Huh, Princess Shirahoshi was startled. Then, I saw a black shadow gathering in front of me, gradually forming a human shape. Good evening, Princess, I'm Shadow Demon, from the Dream Pirates. Qin tried to introduce himself in a gentle tone. However, Shirahoshi was so frightened that his eyes were filled with tears. Are you here to kill me? She is delicate and trembling, charming and lovely. Wait, don't cry, you will be in trouble if you cry. Chin-Yong said helplessly. I didn't come to kill you, but to help you. He was really afraid that Shirahoshi would cry if he didn't meet at a glance. That would attract supergiant sea kings, the kind of supergiants with a body size of more than 5,000 meters. Chin-Yong knew very well that the harmless little princess in front of him was the Poseidon of this generation, one of the three ancient weapons. No, didn't you come to kill me? Princess Shirahoshi blinked to confirm that Chin-Yong was not malicious, then she was relieved, and then she looked at each other curiously. It was the first time she saw a person covered in pitch black. Except for the presence of eyes, there was almost only a silhouette. Are you human? Human. No, I'm a demon, not a human. Chin-Yong chuckled and said, I heard the divine language. On Fishman Island, 10,000 meters deep in the ocean, the lovely mermaid princess is in trouble, so I'm here to help the princess to solve the trouble. He was fooling around. Shirahoshi didn't have much doubt. She was filled with curiosity instead of doubt. You know my troubles. You've been stalked by a strange guy lately, haven't you? He's been sending you love letters and even a threatening marriage proposal recently. This, Shirahoshi's eyes widened. Apart from the fact that His Majesty the King and his 3 elder brothers knew about it, even some ministers were not aware of it. King Neptune can't do anything about him, he can't even find anyone. Chin-Yong said with a smile, but I can, and our dream can help you solve the trouble. Really, really? Of course, but it's not okay to shoot for no reason. Chin-Yong finally got to the point. After solving the trouble, Princess, you have to take me to the treasure house, and I will choose a few treasures as a reward. Okay, Mr. Shadow Demon. Princess Shirahoshi agreed without even thinking. She nodded without any doubt. This is too deceiving. What if it's the bad guy? Chin-Yong was speechless for a while, and the prepared remarks were useless. However, this matter is very worth doing, because just now, Fantasy Jean has scanned the mysterious power, not Yangshu Eve, but the treasure house of Dragon Palace City. Very good, the 4th change is in place. Chapter 0032, Blackmailing the King. For Princess Shirahoshi, this matter may be troublesome for others, but for Chin-Yong, it is easy. You know, this is the depths of the ocean, the home of Halong. Thinking of this, Chin-Yong immediately said, in order to catch that suitor, Princess, you need to listen to my arrangements. Arrangement. Shirahoshi's bright aqua blue eyes were full of doubts. You have to be the bait to lure that person to appear, and then the cadre of our dream pirates, Lord Halong, will take care of it. If afraid of the other party's worries, Chin-Yong said again, please rest assured, Lord Halong will ensure that you will not be hurt. Tomorrow, you only need to propose to your father if you want to go out for a walk. Remember not to bring too many bodyguards. Oh. One more point, Chin-Yong, Vivi Isho, said, you can't talk to Neptune about my existence, otherwise our agreement will be void. I see, Mr. Shadow Demon. Shirahoshi nodded earnestly, with an innocent look on his face, and did not doubt whether Chin-Yong had any other malicious intentions. In this regard, Chin-Yong was helpless. He felt that deceiving a little girl like this seemed to show that he had a bad character, but when he thought about it, he also helped people solve the trouble. It was a normal transaction. That's it for now, I'm leaving. Tomorrow I'll watch the situation in the dark. After leaving a sentence, Chin-Yong was ready to withdraw. But Princess Shirahoshi opened her mouth and whispered, wait, Mr. Shadow Demon. What's the problem? Can you tell me about the sea? Shirahoshi looked longing, even longing. I heard that there are many races in the sea. There are very interesting adventures, and there are also delicious foods that Mermaid Island does not have. Well, Chin-Yong thought about it for a while, but it's not good to hit the little girl's fantasy too much, so he said helplessly, well, how about I tell you a few stories? Okay. The story is like this, it has to start with the grandmother of Little Red Riding Hood. Chin-Yang's head is big when he tells the story. Fortunately, fairy tales are still quite popular, and he still remembers some of them. Talking for half an hour, Princess Shirahoshi fell asleep contentedly. Taking this opportunity, Chin-young quietly evacuated the boudoir. After leaving the princess's room, Chin-young breathed a sigh of relief. Next, it's Neptune. If possible, you can also make another profit from Princess Yi. That's right, Chin-young is going to make multiple copies of money at one time. From Princess Shirahoshi, another payment from King Neptune, and if he could, he even wanted to earn another from the princess. But considering that the princess and the king are not fools after all, it is impossible to fool like Shirahoshi, so they had to give up. As soon as he thought of it, Chin-young returned directly to the banquet hall, only to find that the banquet was over. Without hesitation, he found Neptune directly inside the palace. This is a large and luxurious study, and Neptune is sitting on a chair, seemingly contemplating. Because of the night, Neptune couldn't see Chin-yang's entry even if the magical jewel illuminated the room. Marine wants to win over Jinbei. With Jinbei's sense of justice, she will definitely agree to join Shichibukai in order to protect Mermaid Island. What should I do? Should I contact? Neptune hugged Shang in both hands and muttered to himself unconsciously. At this moment, he frowned and suddenly looked forward. In front of the table, a wisp of black smoke flew out of the darkness, and then quickly condensed into a figure. The whole body is dark and mysterious, with only one pair of eyes, watching him quietly. Who are you? Neptune didn't panic, but said calmly. As expected of a king, he has great courage. Chin-young chuckled and said, I'm the Dream Pirate's Shadow Demon. Shadow Demon, with a bounty of 500 million. That shadow demon who sneaked into the Holy Land to kill Tenryubito. Neptune was taken aback. Chin-young was also stunned for a moment, with a strange expression. I didn't expect my name to be spread to Fishman Island under the sea. Of course, killing Tenryubito is something that has never happened in hundreds of years. What's even more terrifying is that you are still living at ease. The world government will not allow a madman like you to exist. Otherwise Tenryubito His Majesty is swept away, and anyone will dare to kill Tenryubito in the future, and the world will be in chaos. Quote. Neptune's voice was low, and he looked at it carefully. He had a peculiar feeling. It seemed that the shadow demon in front of him was in a different space from him. No matter how he attacked, he couldn't hurt the opponent in the slightest. King Neptune really understands people, but I don't agree with what you said. Tenryubito is nothing. Kill that kind of garbage. If the world government wants to trouble me, let me go. Chin-young was not afraid. Hearing this, Neptune laughed, but he admired Chin-young, a fearless pirate, but he did not choose to continue on this topic. Are you looking for me today to kill me? The hunter in the shadows is really scary. If you attacked me just now, I would be seriously injured if I didn't die. If I take action, you will surely die. Chin-young said calmly. So, I'm not here to kill you. I'm doing a business with you. Business. Your precious daughter, Princess Shirahoshi has been in trouble recently. Chin-young changed what he said to Shirahoshi before, and repeated it again. You're going to help me with this trouble? Neptune frowned. It's not me, it's our dream cadre, Lord Halong. Chin-young waved his hand and said, I'm in a dream. Just an errand. It can make 500 million big pirates run errands. What kind of organization is Dream? Is it just a pirate group? Neptune was shocked. Even the 4 Emperor's pirates wouldn't be so extravagant to send a single person. No comment. Chin-young said indifferently, 300 million compensation. If you agree, we will resolve it soon. 300 million inches. Neptune was stunned, pondered for a moment, and said, how can I trust you? This question is interesting. Do you think our dream will come to 10,000 meters under the sea to make fun of you because of the mere 300 million? Pause. Chin-young smiled again. Secondly, we have a dream business and intelligence business. For example, we know that Princess Shirahoshi is the Sea King Poseidon of this generation. As one of the 3 ancient weapons, this intelligence value, more than 1 billion. Quote. Hearing this, Neptune's expression changed greatly. Shirahoshi awakened Poseidon's aptitude, and it was not long ago that he didn't expect Dream to have information about this. "What do you mean?" he asked in a low voice. "Literally, please buy this information from His Majesty the King." Qinyang showed a kind smile like a profiteer. "As long as His Majesty the King buys out the information, we will not give this information to anyone or any organization." "You are extorting." Neptune was very upset. Once the outside world is made aware of the existence of Poseidon, it is conceivable how much disaster Fish Man Island will suffer. Of course, Qinyang was just frightening the other party. He can't really sell the information, mainly because Princess Shirahoshi is so cute, and he can't bear to let the other party be caught and used as a weapon by other forces, which is too cruel for Princess Shirahoshi. However, Neptune would not know his mind, and he was in a dilemma at this moment. In this regard, Qinyang did not persecute it. For him, Neptune agreed, it was just a windfall, and if he disagreed, then forget it, it doesn't matter. "Well, you can think about it slowly, deal with Princess Shirahoshi's troubles first, and have a good foundation for cooperation before we talk." Hearing this, Neptune took a deep breath and said after a long time, "I know, I believe in you. After dealing with that person, I will be ready for the 300 million reward. Then, please wait for the good news." Qinyang grinned, "Goodbye, Your Majesty the King." As soon as the voice fell, the shadow demon dissipated like smoke and disappeared. Seeing this scene, Neptune shuddered and said inwardly, "What a terrible organization. This mysterious organization cannot be built in a day, and it has only surfaced until now. I am afraid it has a shocking purpose the world will welcome. Here comes the big wave, perhaps more than the last word of One Piece King of Pirates 12 years ago." Soon after, Qinyang returned to the hotel. He did the math for himself. 200 million in hand. After completing the transaction with Neptune, you will get another 300 million. In addition, there is half of the financial report from Tenryubito, plus the 3 treasures agreed by Princess Shirahoshi. Finally, if Neptune is going to buy that intelligence, another 1 billion. The total value is more than 2 billion. They made a fortune. Qinyang's heart was hot. After finishing this ticket, I can buy several fruits. Chapter 0033_killed with one paw. The next day, morning. The sun tree Eve once again cast the sunlight on the land into the deep sea, dispelling the endless darkness. Qinyang went out early in the morning and walked on the street. This is Coral Hill, located in the southeast of Fishman Island. It is a very prosperous town on the island. As he was walking, he heard the surrounding townspeople talking. "This morning, I saw that Her Royal Highness Princess Shirahoshi appeared to go to Fishman Street." Fishman Street. Isn't that a no-go zone? It houses a lot of orphans, and no one manages it. It's too dangerous. The news is true, and there seems to be a group of human pirates accompanying him, probably to protect Her Royal Highness. Hearing these trivial conversations, Qinyang couldn't help but move in his heart. Going to Fishman Street. "My princess, aren't you looking for trouble?" Qinyang was speechless for a while. Shirahoshi didn't want to go anywhere. He would choose such a dangerous place. However, the accompanying pirates are probably red-haired, and they are probably entrusted by Neptune. If they are there, it will be fine. Thinking of this, Qinyang immediately started to act and quickly walked towards the direction of Fishman Street. Now that Shirahoshi has been used as a bait, the suitor will not remain indifferent. He will definitely take action, and maybe even want to kidnap people. It's daytime, the shadow demon can't be used, but it's not. It just won't last for a few minutes, so let's use the sea dragon clone. Soon, Qinyang came to the top of Fishman Street. With a thought, he turned into a sea dragon more than 20 meters long and plunged into the sea. Even on Fishman Island, there is an invisible hierarchy. The bottom layer is Fishman Street, which is a group of orphans. The second is the residents on the seabed. The fishmen who can live on land are all middle class, and the closer the residences to the sun, the higher the value of the person. The richer. As for the top, of course, the royal family of Dragon Palace City. Now the little princess of the royal family, go to the bottom of Fishman Street, the news will definitely be passed on, and soon, the suitor will know. It seems to be a little faster. This is a multi-billion business. Qin Yang flicked the dragon's tail, and his speed exploded with all his strength. As the master of the ocean, the sea dragon burst out at full speed, which is quite terrifying. In an instant, a distance of tens of meters can be crossed. 3 minutes later, Qin Yang had come to the periphery of Fishman Street. He released his perception and immediately noticed Shirahoshi's group. In addition to Shirahoshi, there are several mermaid guards, followed by a few red-haired people, including Usopp and Ben Beckman, who are a group of big pirates. 4 dignified emperors, to be used as bodyguards. Qin Yang couldn't help but laugh, but he naturally put away his breath and hid it. The other party is the 4 emperors, and if they are too casual, they will be discovered. And he just finished the convergence of breath. At this moment, in perception, some kind of weapon is approaching at an extremely fast speed. Come on. The suitor's response was quite fast. Qin Yang's eyes narrowed, and he looked in the direction of perception. 1,000 meters away, there was some kind of special fluctuation in the ocean current, as if it was cut by some kind of sharp weapon. That is the sea dragon. You can perceive this, even if it is red hair, there is no reaction at the moment. Is that a sword? Sword was traversing the ocean current, flying in the direction of Shirahoshi. Not only that, Qin Yang also saw a letter on the hilt. It came just right, I can't wait. Immediately, Qin Yang let out a dragon groan, reminding Shirahoshi that the dragon's body was already swiftly moving towards the direction where the sharp sword was flying. Whoosh! Under the full force of the explosion, a large piece of the sea area in the same place burst. And sensing the situation here, the red hair suddenly swept his eyes. There is danger, Princess Shirahoshi. Is it the sound of dragons just now? Usopp was stunned. There are dragon creatures in the deep sea of Fishman Island. Lord Sea Dragon. Only Shirahoshi's eyes lit up, with a pair of aqua blue eyes, twinkling. Although it was only for a moment, she noticed that it was a dragon. At this time, the sharp sword had reached a few dozen meters in front of him. Suddenly, a figure flashed by, and the red hair had intercepted the sharp sword and held it firmly in his hand. Anyone trying to assassinate you? Princess Shirahoshi, there's a letter on it. It's that guy. Shirahoshi gave a distressed expression. I've already refused, but he's getting more and more over the top. Him. Vander Deacon. On the other side, Qin Yang quickly shuttled. For him, the ocean is like coming home. Parading in the sea, as long as he flicks the dragon's tail, he can cross a long distance. He had been swimming in the direction of the sharp sword, and after 5 minutes, Qin Yang had not seen the target. It's already at the end. Going out, it's out of the Fishman Island. It's the deep sea. Hee, I thought I was hidden in the deep sea, and I couldn't help you. With another dragon roar, Qin Yang's speed increased instead of decreasing. With a puff, his body passed through the huge bubble wrapping Fishman Island and continued to sail forward. Approaching all the way, Longway released, in the deep sea, but no creature dared to approach. You see, it's a boat. Just beyond the boat. Squinting his eyes, Qin Yang saw the shadow of a ship in the distance. Lord Vander Deacon, something seems to be approaching us. The ship was very old, like a ghost ship, but on the deck of the ship, a fish man whispered. Something. What? The speaker wears a small top hat, has upturned hair, has a beard on his mouth, stands on all fours, and has 2 hands at the same time. He stared into the distance, but could only see a small black spot. What kind of sea king without eyes? Wait for it to come over, and then kill him. However, as soon as his voice fell, the little black dot became faster, and after a few breaths, it landed directly on the bow of the boat. The slender figure, the high-spirited dragon head, the teeth and claws, and the mouth spit. Are you going to kill me? Dragon, dragon. Van der Decken widened his eyes and said incredulously, impossible, there are no dragon creatures in the waters near Fishman Island. Who are you? Catch your dragon. Qin Yang laughed and patted the other side with a paw. The dragon's claws are not long, but when they wave them in an instant, they set off 5 sharp currents. The blade of the sea descended from the top of the head, and the speed was so fast that a group of mermaids had no time to dodge. Van der Decken bore the brunt of the brunt and was directly hit in the chest by a sea blade. The next moment, he screamed and blood flowed wildly. Want to run? Qin Yang snorted, flicked the dragon's tail, and quickly approached. Van der Decken didn't even take a few steps before he was caught in Qin Yang's hand. Why did you just say you were going to kill me? You. Van der Decken was so frightened that he was afraid that the other party would eat him in one bite. Stop screaming, I'll send you to Dragon Palace City and ask Neptune to get the money. Qin Yang didn't bother to pay attention to it, so he fainted right away, and then glanced coldly at the rest of the fishman on the boat. Go away, I'm too lazy to shoot at you. Leaving a sentence, he immediately evacuated and returned to Fishman Island with Van der Decken. The survivors who stayed on the deck were horrified. Captain Van der Decken. Chapter 0034_earn 1.3 billion. Qin Yang grabbed Van der Decken and returned to Dragon Palace City. The soldiers outside couldn't stop him at all, but before Qin Yang could enter the city, King Neptune took the initiative to come over because of the commotion outside. Not only him, but the redhead, Shirahoshi and others have also returned from Fishman Street. Was surprised when they saw the appearance of a 20-meter-long, mighty hockey sea dragon. Protect His Majesty the King. A minister immediately shouted in panic, You sea dragon, this is Dragon Palace. What do you want to do? Noisy. Qin Yang glared at the other party, and Long Wei released it. Suddenly, a huge pressure swept the scene. Under this dragon's might, all the Dragon Palace city guards holding weapons could not hold on for a few seconds, and fell to the ground one by one, stunned. Conqueror Hockey. The redhead was taken aback and looked stern. Don't be impulsive. At this moment, Neptune finally spoke, stopping the guards who wanted to escort him. He naturally remembered the transaction between him and Dream last night. It's just that he never imagined that the other party's movements would be so fast, and it was only half a day's effort that the problem that had troubled him for a long time was solved so easily. Qin Yang glanced at Shirahoshi's father and daughter, then looked at the red hair, and said, 4 emperors with red hair, I have a little brother on your boat. Hearing this, the red-haired eyes flashed and he nodded, That's the case. Excuse me, we owe you a favor. Also, it wasn't Conqueror Hockey just now, it was just my dragon power. After speaking, Heilong stopped paying attention to him, turned to look at Neptune, and did not speak. Seeing this, Neptune immediately understood and said, Please come to my hall, Mr. Redhead, thank you for your protection, Shirahoshi, you should go back to your room first. Between words, people who have nothing to do are separated. After that, Qin Yang was invited to a hall alone. Qin Yang transformed himself into a human form, and then entered the interior of the palace. Seeing this scene, Neptune was taken aback again. Mr. Sea Dragon, what race are you, and you can actually transform into a human form? I know you are not a devil fruit person. Ability people are afraid of sea water, and it is impossible for you to only be active in the sea. You mermaid women, after reaching adulthood, can fork their tails and walk upright like humans. The world is much bigger than the king you know. Qin Yang casually perfunctory, he can't say directly, he just released his transformation, and now it is his true appearance. Not much nonsense, the deal that Shadow Demon talked to you last night has now been completed. Said that, Qin Yang threw the fainted Van der Decken in front of the king. This person is the captain of the Flying Pirates, Van der Decken X, the target fruit ability person. His right hand is wearing a glove, which is the key point of his ability. Anyone who has been touched will be regarded as a target. Those love letters, weapons, and threatening letters that flew from a long distance were all because of his ability. Quote. After a brief explanation, Qin Yang said bluntly, "Man, Benlong has been caught and handed over to you to deal with it. Is your reward ready?" Neptune stared at Vanderdecken for a long time before he nodded. "I will give you the reward, please rest assured." He didn't mean to default, nor did he dare to default. The other party was a dream cadre. Soon, Neptune had someone fetch a passbook. Qin Yang took it, and after confirming the authenticity, he smiled and said, "Very good, the king is quite trustworthy. If you have any difficulties in the future, you can contact us at any time. For the sake of old customers, we can give you a 10% discount." Quote. After speaking, Qin Yang was ready to leave. "Wait, Mr. Hailong," Neptune couldn't help but speak again, "about the information I said earlier." "What, you want to buy out?" "Buy out," Neptune gritted his teeth and said solemnly. "Shirahoshi must not be leaked anyway, otherwise it will cause disaster. I hope you can keep your promise." Saying that, he handed out the second passbook. 1 billion. When Qin Yang took it, he couldn't help but be surprised. Expected of the king of Fishman Island, he is very rich, not like the little girl of the empress. If you pay 500 million, you have to go out to rob. Please rest assured, Dream will not use his reputation to do things that violate the agreement. The information about the Sea King will never be leaked. Then, goodbye, Neptune. After receiving the small money, Qin Yang was in a happy mood and said goodbye immediately. After a dragon roar, he turned into a sea dragon, flew out with a swoosh, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Seeing people leave, Neptune and Vivi breathed a sigh of relief. As a king, standing in front of Qin Yang, he felt a little pressure. The deterrent force brought by the dream cadre is greater than he imagined. You must know that he was not so passive when he met the redhead. I hope Shirahoshi can grow up safely. Neptune sighed and summoned the minister. Someone, put him in jail. Catch Vanderdecken, get 300 million in compensation, buy out intelligence, and another 1 billion. In the morning, Qin Yang received a huge sum of 1.3 billion, which was more terrifying than robbing the heavenly gold. With this money, I can buy 2 or 3 devil fruits. The question is where to buy. Qin Yang first dived into the sea, and then changed into Ibaraki again and returned to the hotel. Along the way, he was thinking about it. Like last time, I bought it at an auction. It was luck. It was just a coincidence. There must be a stable source. Preferably a long-standing seller. Qin Yang thought about it carefully. There are only 3 ways. The first is to buy from Marine, but this is definitely not possible. It is excluded, and the other party will not sell it. The second, please, the redhead. As the 4 emperors, the other party is very powerful in the New World. It should be possible to buy a devil fruit. Look for Shichibukai, Doflamingo. This man eats both black and white, has an official background, and has dark forces, underground arms business, all over the world. From his hands, you can definitely buy devil fruits. The first one is totally useless, the second one is estimated to wait, and the third one is the fastest. Qin Yang pondered for a moment, and immediately decided to carry out the second and third methods at the same time. Go and see the redhead first. When night fell, Qin Yang turned into a shadow demon and sneaked into the dragon palace again. This time, he didn't look for Neptune, but the 4 emperors' red hair. As soon as he entered the room, Qin Yang had not yet materialized, and the red-haired man sitting at the table drinking a small wine froze. Who? As expected of the 4 emperors, the perception is amazing. Qin Yang, Vivi Isho, showed his stature generously. Seeing the shadow demon that materialized, the redhead couldn't help but be a little stunned. Shadow demon, dream pirates. Chapter 0035_shocked redhead. Shadow demon, dream pirates. Seeing the dark figure suddenly appearing in his room, the redhead couldn't help but blurt out. The next moment, he suddenly stood up and punched Qin Yang. Want to test me? Qin Yang's expression was as usual, and he was very calm. He could see that this punch was not malicious and did not use much power. A punch hit the shadow demon's mouth, but the red hair didn't feel like hitting the real body, as if swiping the air. Logia. The red-haired secretly said that as expected. The next moment, his eyes narrowed, his right arm retracted, and then armament hockey covered his palm and attacked Qin again. However, even so, this palm shot still has no effect. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, the red-haired face was shocked. He silently retracted his right hand, and looked at Qin in disbelief. Who the hell are you? I'm a shadow demon, a member of the dream, just running errands. Not Logia. What gave you the illusion that I am a Logia-capable person? Qin said calmly, I have never told the outside world that I am an incapable person. No wonder Marine can't catch you. The red hair was silent, and even armament hockey couldn't hit the opponent. It was hard to imagine that there was nothing in the world that could kill this person. It was so difficult to kill and injure, let alone catch him. The world is so big, there are all kinds of wonders. He said with emotion, and then laughed again. What's the matter with you coming to me at night? I only saw your Kadri Halong in the daytime. At that time, I thought, Fishman, there may be others on the island. I came to you because Ibaraki has been taken care of by you these past 2 days. Qin first covered his other avatar. This time, let's pretend we owe you a favor. You guys value friendship. The redhead smiled cheerfully. I thought that a mysterious pirate group like you was full of wicked people. In this regard, Qin was noncommittal, just chuckled. The second thing, I want to ask you a favor. Even the shadow demon that can easily sneak into the Holy Land can't figure it out. The red hair was a little curious, but he didn't rush to agree. He had nothing to do with Dream, and he helped Ibaraki only because of Rayleigh, and it was the first time he met Shadow Demon, so he wouldn't agree easily. We need devil fruits and want to buy them from your channel. Qin said, whether it's Zone, Paramesha, or the rare Logia, it doesn't matter, as long as it's devil fruit. Pause, he added, we need a lot. Correspondingly, we will also be rewarded. Hearing this, the red hair became more and more curious. After thinking about it for a while, he said in shock, aren't you going to form an army of capable people? Yes, Qin nodded. Anyway, if the other party thinks so, it's best, so that he won't make up other reasons. Some people have wanted to do this before, but I advise you to give up. The red hair shook his head and said, although there are differences between the 3 devil fruits, they are not absolute strengths. Devil fruit, the only thing that really matters is the development level. Even 100 newcomers can't compare to Whitebeard's punch. Quote. Mention Whitebeard, even if he is facing 100 people who have just eaten the fruit, he can still slaughter them cleanly. The army of capable people seems beautiful, but in fact, it still depends on the person who eats the fruit. No matter how good the fruit is, it is still a waste in the hands of the incompetent. It doesn't matter, I'm just running the errands, the decision is not in my hands. It's the captain's decision. Qin shrugged. Obviously it was impossible to tell the other party the real situation. Well, since you have to buy it, I can help you get in touch. The redhead shook his head with a laugh. However, I'm curious, who is your captain? Our captain, Qin said playfully, only one word, Qin. Qin, is it strong? I don't know. Qin was too lazy to talk. The more he talked, the more likely a flaw would appear. Strength is a mystery. The red hair was not too surprised, and he didn't expect the other party to tell the truth. How many cadres do you have? Can't say. Understood. Well, about devil fruits, I will tell Ibaraki when there is news. Thank you. After the conversation, the shadow demon disappeared directly. The red hair stared at this scene in a daze, and subconsciously released observation hockey. However, for a moment, he could no longer capture the breath of the shadow demon. What a powerful ability, isn't it a devil fruit, a racial talent? What kind of race is that? On the other side, Qin did not leave, but went to Shirahoshi's boudoir. According to the agreement, Shirahoshi will take him to the treasure house and let him pick up some treasures. Of course, it is said that there are several pieces. In fact, Chinyang only needs one. When I entered Dragon Palace City last night, I scanned the treasure store with mysterious power. I completed the agreement today, and it was time to get it. Without a word, Chinyang quickly sneaked into Shirahoshi's boudoir. Princess. Mr. Shadow Demon. Seeing Chinyang appear, Shirahoshi suddenly smiled. Seeing this innocent smile, Chinyang was in a delicate mood and a little embarrassed. He felt that Shirahoshi had a certain kind of affection for him, of course not the kind of love between men and women, but a feeling similar to that of a big brother. Thank you, Mr. Shadow Demon, for helping me drive that person away. Well, you're welcome, Chinyang coughed lightly and said, remember our agreement. Ah, yes, the treasury. Shirahoshi got up from the chuang and said seriously, please come with me. It's night, and my father shouldn't notice. Chinyang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This little girl seemed to be more active than him. If he was Neptune, he wouldn't be mad. However, that was all he could think about, and he immediately dematerialized and followed behind Shirahoshi. The little princess was going to the treasure house, but the guards did not dare to stop her. Chinyang got in smoothly, and was immediately shocked by the blinding treasures. But soon, he focused his attention on a jade box. Han, is this the mysterious power? Yes, and it's not a devil fruit. The mysterious power contained in it is even bigger than ordinary devil fruits. Hearing this, Chinyang was nothing, but the next sentence of Fantasy Gene surprised him. By absorbing this power, you can start a very powerful transformation. Much stronger than Ibaraki Doji and Shadow Demon. Chapter 0036 Shichibukai, Add Me. By absorbing this power, you can start a very powerful transformation. Much stronger than Ibaraki Doji and Shadow Demon. These few words of Fantasy Gene surprised Chinyang Vivi. Transformation is also divided into strong and weak. He asked. Naturally, the most basic, the level of star rating represents the strength of strength. With the same transformation, a 5-star star can easily defeat a 2-star rating. Fantasy Gene briefly explained. Besides, there are strengths and weaknesses between the clones. The current host's first transformation, Sea Dragon, has a growth potential that exceeds that of the second and third transformations. Hearing this, Chinyang couldn't help but say, what do you mean? If you absorb the power in the jade box and open the fourth transformation, it will be more terrifying than the Sea Dragon. This is not necessarily, but at least it is on the same level. After saying this, Fantasy Gene stopped explaining and fell into silence. Chinyang opened his eyes and walked towards the jade box. The box is placed in the most conspicuous place, located on a high platform, and stored alone. It is not big, only the size of a small lunchbox. On the surface, there is not much magic at all. Of course, Chinyang knew what it was. To be precise, he only knew the possible effects of this jade box. Princess, do you know what's inside? Chinyang said bluntly after pondering for a moment. Well, I don't know. Mr. Shadow Demon, do you want this box? If you want, you can open it and take a look. Shirahoshi said as a matter of course. Forget it. Chinyang was in no hurry to open it. I don't want any other payment, just this one. Princess, if I take it away, it may cause you a little trouble. I will come back to deal with this trouble myself in the future. You don't have to worry. Oh, Shirahoshi seemed to understand, but at the age of 6, it was difficult for her to understand Chinyang's words. In this regard, Chinyang was just Isho, and immediately pointed to the jade box. Under this finger, black smoke suddenly billowed, climbed up the surface of the jade box, and finally completely wrapped it. Shadow demons can't carry any creatures or dead objects, and perform ultra-long-distance space jumps, but like ordinary people, it is still possible to take an object. Of course, if something is too big or too much, it can't be moved, and there is a time limit for the shadow demon to materialize. Yang felt that unless the shadow demon was upgraded to 5 stars, he might be able to carry things and perform long-distance jumps. Then, Princess, goodbye, and I'll tell you an interesting story next time you come. Goodbye, Mr. Shadow Demon, you must come. Shirahoshi was a little reluctant. The story Yang told last night was quite interesting. Whoosh! The shadow demon turned into a long wisp of smoke and flew from a height, flying out of the Dragon Palace city. Back at the hotel, Yang put the jade box on the table, sat by himself, and observed quietly. He wasn't in a hurry to absorb it, and speaking of it, he didn't want to absorb it now either. After the absorption, the forced transformation will be started immediately for a period of 7 days. It is impossible for the red hair to stay in the Mermaid Island for 7 days. It is estimated that he will leave soon. At that time, he must be with Ibaraki. This jade box, if I remember correctly, is related to Shirahoshi. Yang muttered to himself. He remembered that this jade box can make people grow older. Of course, it is just a rumor that changing the age of a mermaid, even a little loli, can suddenly become a sexy beauty. When female mermen reach adulthood, their tails will fork and become legs, allowing them to walk upright like humans. Changing the age is basically equivalent to changing the time. It is indeed a powerful force. Yang touched his chin, wondering if he wanted to absorb it. It's just that all this is just a rumor, and there is no definite evidence to prove the jade box effect. Quote. Yang always felt that this thing has a lot to do with Poseidon, the Sea King, and maybe there is some shocking secret hidden. Whatever your secret, sooner or later you'll have to absorb it. Maybe to others, the Sea King Poseidon, one of the 3 ancient weapons, is a very powerful force, but for Yang, as long as he is willing, he can raise the Sea Dragon to 5 stars, and it is impossible to be worse than the Sea King. Therefore, he doesn't care about what is hidden in the jade box and what secrets there are. Compared with this, he prays in his heart, hoping to obtain a powerful 4th transformation that surpasses the Sea Dragon. It's a pity that I can't absorb it yet. Wait until I learn armament. Once I learn armament, I can go to Akainu to trouble. With a plan in mind, Yang put away the jade box for the time being. The next day, the red hair didn't seem to be in a hurry to leave. Yang didn't know what the other party was planning. Anyway, he continued to wander on Fishman Island. For him, Fishman Island has a huge harvest, 1.3 billion Bailey, plus a jade box. It can be said to be a lot of money. Now, his more headache is how to contact Doflamingo. Basically, Yang can be sure that Doflamingo can buy devil fruits, and it's much faster than redheads. Remember that he is not the king of Dressrosa yet. Just when Yang was thinking about this question, he heard a certain piece of information on the street. The captain of the mermaid pirates, Hexia Kipping, was back. I have an idea. He is Shichibukai now, so I can just mix it up with Shichibukai too. Then you can go directly through Marine and learn about Doflamingo's whereabouts. Yang's eyes lit up, but he immediately felt that it was too troublesome and made a big turn. However, Shichibukai is still good. I can accept the benefits. As for Marine's order, I will ignore it. If it doesn't work well, I will just retire, and I can beat Akainu by the way. Thinking of this, Yang immediately took action. He quickly found Jinbei's whereabouts, but someone moved faster than him. Marine Rear Admiral Momoshige. Almost as soon as Jinbei arrived, this woman had intercepted each other at the port. At this moment, Marine and the pirates are sitting in a tavern, and the atmosphere is dignified. How are you thinking? Momoshige Vivi Isho, accept the title of Shichibukai, you merman and fishman will be protected, and the discrimination of the past will not exist. Old man, Jinbei, a fat middle-aged mermaid with a cape and navy blue skin, said in a deep voice, I need time to think about it. As soon as his voice fell, a playful voice suddenly sounded. What else are you thinking about? Join in quickly. Yang didn't know when. He sat at the same table, he looked at Momoshige, and said, Hi, Shichibukai, add me. Chapter 0037 _ Do not act rashly. Hey Shichibukai, add me. The sudden sound made everyone present stunned for a moment. Momosugi suddenly looked at not far from the right side, her beautiful eyes suddenly widened, and a young man in a black cloak appeared there unknowingly. This gesture is full of leeway. Bastard, who are you? Momosugi finally reacted and looked at Chin Yang angrily. Aren't you Rear Admiral? You don't even know me. Chin Yang felt strange. How can you be a Rear Admiral? You're not qualified at all. Akainu tried so hard to find me in Tsubayati Archipelago, so you should know. Dream Pirates, Ibaraki. Momosugi suddenly stood up, and suddenly put his hand on the hilt of the sword at his waist. His expression was full of alertness. Ibaraki, a member of the legendary fantasy, also injured Marine Admiral Akainu in Tsubayati Archipelago. Isn't this murderer in Tsubayati? Why appear on Fishman Island? Dream Pirates. Even Jinbei on the side was taken aback. Recently, there have been too many rumors about Dream. Little girl, why are you so nervous? Chin Yang waved his hand and said, if I had malicious intentions towards you, I would have attacked you just now, and you would already be dead. Who are you calling girl? Momosugi's eyes were burning with anger. I'm older than you. Oh, that little sister, I want to join Shichibukai, how about you, don't you think about it? Chin Yang teased. Miss. This, Momosugi was at a loss for a moment. Who is this person? He is so thick-skinned and shameless. Next second, she reacted again. What did you say? Are you going to join Shichibukai? She didn't know much about Ibaraki, only that the other party was a member of the Dream, who had played against a Kainu admiral in Tsubayati Archipelago. What? Can't you? Chin Yang shrugged. That guy Akainu has been brooding just because I beat him up and he vomited blood. He always wants to trouble me. To be honest, I'm also annoyed. Join Shichibukai, he can't do anything to me. Miss, what do you think? Pause, he added. Anyway, you still have 3 places in Marine. Counting Jinbei, the sea hero, and me, most of your tasks will be completed. No, you are a member of the Dream. The shadow demon of the Dream killed Tenryubito, and the world government's wanted for you will continue forever. Momosugi shook his head, not believing Chin Yang's words at all. What's your purpose? You are mistaken, people are killed by shadow demons, what does it have to do with me? If you have the ability, go and catch shadow demons. Chin Yang rolled his eyes. I just wanted to be quiet. Akainu blocked Tsubayati's land for a week. I didn't find a hair after that, he must have to come after me. You Dream people also know to be afraid. Momosugi thought it was interesting. The shadow demon dared to kill Tenryubito and left his name. The Ibaraki in front of him was different. The old god Chin Yang was there. I'm afraid, I will take the initiative to come here to talk to you. Miss, I know you have no right to decide. How about this, you can contact Sengoku and ask him what he thinks. Having said this, Chin Yang Vivi paused and smiled. As for whether I am qualified to serve as Shichibukai, you can ask Akainu what he thinks. Hearing this, Momosugi shuddered. Only then did I realize that this murderer could face Admiral head-on, and his strength was beyond doubt. Momosugi didn't dare to mess with Ibaraki. She didn't want to conflict with Ibaraki. Her mission was to win over Shichibukai and fight with Ibaraki. Maybe anyone she brought would be wiped out. There's no need to feel ashamed. Anyway, a Kainu admiral couldn't catch him. He was just a rear admiral, let alone an opponent. Well, yes, that's it. Momosugi comforted himself in his heart, thought about it, and then said slowly, I know, I will tell the marshal. As for the result, he will accept it, Chin Yang said firmly. Unlike Miss, Sengoku is a smart person, and a smart person is very pragmatic. At present, the 4 Shichibukai you have recruited, Don Quixote Doflamingo, Eagle Eye Mahawk, Gecko Moria, Crocodile, all have a lot of black history, doesn't he accept them all? In contrast, I just hit Akainu a little bit, just a little thing. Not he can join Shichibukai is not the key to the shadow demon killing Tenryubito. Although this is also a problem, it is not impossible to solve. The real key point is whether his joining is beneficial to Marine. As long as Sengoku thinks it's beneficial, joining is just a matter of words. And hearing his words, Momosegi's eyes widened again, a little incredible. You, how do you know this? Chinyang chuckled, but looked at Jinbei. Jinbei, the captain of the Fishman pirates, is known as Sea-Man. He was Fishman, the whale shark, with a large build and a short, thick black beard under his chin, and he had been wearing a patterned bathrobe. Seeing Chinyang looking over, he also kept looking at each other. Brother Jinbei, if I were you, I would immediately accept the title of Shichibukai. Chinyang said. Jinbei froze for a moment, but did not expect that the first sentence of the other party was this. Chinyang chuckled. Brother Jinbei, do you think Fishman Island is safe? There are a lot of pirates coming and going here every day. Some pirates come with the idea of catching a mermaid. After all, a young fish the price can be sold for hundreds of millions on the black market. Quote. While Chinyang was chatting with Jinbei, Momosegi quietly quit. She had someone bring a phone bug and contacted the Marine headquarters. Moses. Kizaru Admiral, there is something to report to you. Momosegi didn't beat around the bush, and told Chinyang's story directly. And after hearing this, Kizaru stayed for a while. He never thought that the dreamy Ibaraki would still play like this. You stabilize him first, and don't have any conflicts. You are all together, and you are not the opponent of that person. I will report to the marshal. Yes. Momosegi nodded solemnly, and the danger level of Ibaraki in her heart rose by another level. Even Kizaru told her not to act rashly when she heard the name. It's really troublesome, but this guy doesn't look so violent. He should be easy to get along with. Chapter 0038_Miss, you have a big deal. Marine Headquarters, Marineford. On the top floor of a classical building, Marshal Marine's office. Sengoku listened to Kizaru's report, and after listening to it, he looked stunned. Ibaraki, the fantasy member who wounded Akainu, wants the title of Shichibukai. After a long silence, Sengoku couldn't help but confirm. Yes, it seems that the man is on Fishman Island, and it is unknown when he escaped from the Sabayati archipelago. Kizaru said. Whimsical. Sengoku snorted. Their shadow demon killed Tenryubito and turned around and wanted another member to be Shichibukai. This is not the most angry place. The angry thing is that Ibaraki is just an ordinary member. Not even a cadre. Dream is obviously not sincere. Now, among the 4 Shichibukai that Marine has identified, any one of them is the head of a certain force, or is the most famous person in the world. In contrast, the dreamy Ibaraki, except for the first-class strength, is slightly inferior. If you are a dream cadre, you can seriously consider it. Sengoku pondered. The dream pirates are very mysterious. So mysterious that even their intelligence department can't find any clues. If there is a cadre who becomes Shichibukai, Sengoku will seriously consider it, and the probability of agreeing is very high. As for the shadow demon killing Tenryubito, this matter can also be handled in a different way. Reject him. After thinking for a moment, Sengoku decided immediately, but as soon as the words came out, he changed his words. No, drag him first. Kizaru raised an eyebrow. He is now on Fishman Island, and he will definitely enter the new world in the future. In this case, it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Sengoku said in a deep voice, send troops to patrol the entrance waters of the new world. When he shows up, he will be arrested. Quote. It turns out that it is feasible. Tenryubito has urged it many times. It is best to solve it this time. Kizaru also thought it was a good idea. As long as he caught Ibaraki and obtained information about the shadow demon and the dream, it would not be difficult. As for whether or not to catch the shadow demon, it was another question. At least Tenryubito could explain it. However, at this moment, Garp Vice Admiral, who was sitting on the sofa, shook his head and said, Sengoku, you are a smart person, and the other party is not a fool. What do you mean? Garp. Since he dares to reveal his identity to talk, it is impossible for him not to guess your reaction. If you do this, you may fall into the other party's trap. Garp haha Isho said, that person named Ibaraki doesn't seem to have a bad mind. Hearing this, Sengoku's face suddenly turned bad. He found that Garp was right, maybe it was a trap. But knowing that it was a trap, Sengoku had to shoot, because there was only one chance. The dream was too mysterious, and it was too difficult to find the other party. Needless to say, it's worth a try. With this in mind, Sengoku immediately ordered, Kizaru, you lead the fleet with 5 Vice Admiral, and by the way inform Kuzan. Let him stop arguing with Tenryubito. When the time comes, 2 Admiral, 5 Vice Admiral shots, enough to catch the man. Don't believe it, there's a second Rayleigh to help him this time. Understood. After giving the order, Sengoku took out another phone bug. Meanwhile, Fishman Island. Momoshige received the call and was even more surprised when he heard the voice of the person on the other side. He didn't expect that it was not Admiral Kizaru, but Marshal Sengoku. This Ibaraki is so powerful that he immediately alerted the Marshal. Without hesitation, she returned to her seat and said directly, Ibaraki, the Marshal wants to speak to you directly. Huh, Sengoku. Chinyang raised his eyebrows, but suddenly there was a guess in his heart. Hiding the thoughts in his heart, Chinyang took over and said, I am Ibaraki. Good morning, Marshal Marine. Are you going to join Shichibukai? Sengoku's voice was full of energy, obviously still at the peak of a person, much stronger than 10 years later. Yes, what did the Marshal think about? Chinyang chuckled, although he had already guessed the answer in his heart. Impossible. Your shadow demon killed Tenryubito. In a blink of an eye, you want to enter the marine system and become Shichibukai. Do you think, why should I trust you? Sengoku asked, wanting to see what Chinyang would use to convince him. However, his calculus fell through. Chinyang didn't follow the routine at all, and said bluntly, Sengoku, don't play stupid. Tenryubito was killed, the anxious group of Tenryubito in the Holy Land. You Marines, I don't think you are in a hurry. He continued, besides, he just killed a Tenryubito. One of the current kings, Shichibukai, Don Quixote da Flamingo, didn't he kill Tenryubito? Hearing this suddenly, Momoshige and Jinbei on the side explained that their expressions changed, and they were a little shocked. Is there such a thing? I don't know where you got the information, but his situation is different. Sengoku was equally horrified, but he didn't expect Dream to even know this top secret. What else is there to talk about? When you figure it out, you'll naturally want me to join Shichibukai. Chinyang hihi Isho, too lazy to argue with the other party again. However, when the time comes, you will regret not agreeing now. After speaking, he hung up immediately. This scene made Momoshige dumbfounded. This guy is so bold. This is Marshal Sengoku. No, dreamers are very courageous. A shadow demon dares to kill Tenryubito in the Holy Land. This Ibaraki is also very arrogant, and threatens Sengoku directly on the phone. Momoshige opened her mouth. If the other party wasn't a pirate, she might have said a few words of admiration. You're really not afraid of death. Why am I not afraid anymore? Chinyang blinked and teased. Don't talk about me. Miss, you are a big deal. Huh, Momoshige was at a loss. Wasn't the other party the one who had the big deal? Chinyang shook his head, got up and prepared to leave. He can basically guess what Sengoku's calculations are. If it is rejected, he will not take the initiative to contact him at all. The reason for doing so is just to stabilize and delay time. What are you procrastinating for? Then there's no need to ask, of course it's to catch him. Let me think, if they want to capture me, they won't venture into Fishman Island, they should be lining up at the New World exit. Chinyang pouted and said in his heart, tigers don't show their power, they really think I'm a sick cat. Doflamingo killed Tenryubito, and still held Shichibukai firmly, and even in recent years, that person has often robbed the heavenly gold. But for some reason, Marine couldn't arrest him, so he was forced to agree to become Shichibukai. Chinyong felt that if Doflamingo could do it, why couldn't he do it? Still beating. Chapter 0039_New World. At first, Chinyong thought that Sengoku would agree to his proposal to become Shichibukai, but in fact, Sengoku refused, and even tried to take advantage of the time difference to catch him by surprise at the entrance of the new world. After thinking about it carefully, Chinyong felt that the problem lies in the cognition of both parties. He himself knew that he was a dream, he represented a dream, and a person was Sea Dragon, Shadow Demon, Ibaraki, and any transformation in the future. But Sengoku didn't know. In Sengoku's view, Ibaraki was just an ordinary member. Although he had combat power close to the admiral level, he didn't agree to it immediately. After all, he was just an ordinary member and didn't have enough weight. However, it doesn't matter, beat them first and let them be honest, and they will agree later. Shaking his head, Chinyong swaggered away from the eyes of Momoshiki and Marine. In this regard, many sailors also have a heart, and they can't do anything even though the murderer is right in front of them. This kind of feeling is really uncomfortable. Momoshiki breathed a sigh of relief instead. It would be best if there was no conflict. She looked sideways at Jinbei and asked, "How are you thinking?" The old man can agree. After pondering for a moment, Jinbei nodded and said, "Brother Ibaraki Shaoshang is very reasonable. As a condition, Fishman Island must be recognized by the world government, and neither the mermaid nor the Fishman family should be taken into custody. Human discrimination." Quote. Of course, the idea above is to promote harmony between races. Momoshiki Vivi Isho said, "As for Mermaid Island, of course, it is protected by the world government and our marine." Chinyong left the tavern, but did not return directly to the hotel, but found a secluded place to practice hockey. Although he couldn't perceive his own vigor, he might have awakened armament at some point, so he didn't let up. While cultivating, waiting for the redhead's contact. This wait is 2 days. After 2 days, Chinyong finally got contact with the red hair pirates, and everyone was ready to leave. When he left, it was very calm. Chinyong didn't reveal his identity and got on the boat in a low-key manner. Through the Immigration Bureau, ships follow the deep-sea serpentine currents to a huge hole beneath the red soil continent. This hole is located directly below the holy site of Mariajoy, and through it, you can enter the Sea of the New World. All the way is without danger. After passing through the deep-sea giant cave, the currents suddenly become complicated. There is no need to do anything at all. As long as the ship is driven by the current, it will naturally float towards the sea, but the process will be rougher. Fortunately, the navigators of the red-haired pirates were skilled, and nothing serious happened. It's here, the new world. On the deck, Ben Beckman grabbed the edge of the boat with one hand to prevent himself from being thrown out, and shouted at the same time, "Fix yourself, the last part of the journey is the most dangerous, and it is easy to be thrown out. You know, there are ferocious carnivorous sea kings outside, which is very dangerous." Quote. Chinyong stepped back according to the words, grabbing the door handle of the cabin to stabilize his body. Above the field of vision, the light became more and more obvious, until at a certain moment, suddenly, a huge ship rushed out from the bottom of the sea with a bang. The next moment, the coating shattered with a snap, and everyone breathed the air of the new world. Yasop whistled and laughed. "Every time I go back and forth to the new world, it's so thrilling." "How does it feel, Ibaraki?" "Not bad, Ting is interesting, like riding a roller coaster or a water slide." Chinyong chuckled. "Ha ha ha," the red-haired laughed and said, "Yasop, I remember the first time you were scared to death." This, Yasop blushed. However, the redhead did not mean to make fun of it. When he entered the new world with Captain Roger, he was even more unbearable and was scared to death. Shaking his head, the redhead looked at Chinyong and asked, "You have arrived in the new world, what are your plans after that?" A pause, he took a step forward and said, "After that, we will return to our own sea area. I have been away from the New World for a long time. It is estimated that many people can't sit still and have to go back and clean up first. Then I'll leave it alone for now." Qin Yang thought for a while, and guessed that Marine was waiting for him somewhere, and he would meet him later. It would be inappropriate to follow the redhead. "Thank you for taking me along and giving me a lifeboat, just let me move freely." Quote. "Well, your strength is in this sea area at the entrance, and you won't encounter too much danger, there is no problem." The redhead nodded, and immediately asked people to bring 2 things. The same thing is similar to a compass, except that there are 3 spherical spheres linked together at 3 angles, each glass sphere is hollow, and there is a red and white pointer with magnetic force inside. The other is very intuitive, it is a white phone bug. This is a record pointer. You should know how to use it. As for the phone bug, you can hold it. If you have any questions, you can contact me. Okay, thank you. Qin Yang was not pretentious and took it immediately. The boat is here. Following the redhead to the side of the deck, a crew member was rudely lowering a lifeboat. Qin Yang didn't say a word, just jumped lightly and jumped down. "Goodbye, everyone from the Red Hair Pirates." Qin Yang stood firmly on the boat, raised his head and said goodbye to the group of people. "No," the redhead said in a deep voice. "Ibaraki, you can come and play with us if you have nothing to do. There are many places in the New World, but they are very interesting." The chubby pirate leader laughed. "Of course I'll go." The 2 sides said goodbye, and the Red Hair Pirates left Yangfan. And in the thick fog in the far distance, a fleet slowly sailed out. It was a warship flying the Marine flag, 1 flagship and 5 secondary ships. Among them, on the flagship deck at the forefront, the sailors from the observation deck held telescopic glasses and scanned the sea around. Suddenly, he saw the flag of the Red Hair Pirates. 4 emperors. The sailor was startled, but he was still calm. The next moment, he found a rescue boat behind the red-haired pirates. "That is the dreamy Ibaraki." After confirming that he was not mistaken, the lookout immediately shouted, "Target found! Target found! 11 o'clock direction, 3 nautical miles away." And hearing this, on a sun lounger on the bow, Admiral Kuzan breathed and got up slowly. "Looks like it's up to you," Kizaru whispered behind him. In response, Kuzan scratched his messy hair and walked helplessly to the bow. The troublesome thing. As soon as the voice fell, he jumped up and jumped to a height of tens of meters like lightning. The next moment, the surrounding temperature dropped rapidly at an incredible speed, and in an instant it was below freezing. Ice Age. Chapter 0040_9-Tailed Fox. Ice Age. A low groan resounded through the entire fleet. Small $% said family text *shui $network. This voice seemed to be filled with 9 secluded cold air, and when it fell into human ears, one would shudder unconsciously. Kuzan Admiral shot. A vice admiral with a ferocious expression and a 2-headed dragon helmet said grimly. As soon as the voice fell, the next moment, everyone could see Kuzan, who jumped to the sky, his palms shot out to the sides. Under this shot, the moisture in the air condensed into ice and turned into 2 chains of ice crystals, extending towards the sea. The speed of this extension is extremely fast, and it has already touched the sea surface within the blink of an eye. But this is not the end, but the beginning. The turbulent sea surface was completely frozen the moment it touched the 2 ice crystal chains. And this frozen power, like a spark blazing a prairie fire, quickly shrouded Qin Yang's direction. Qin Yang was keenly aware and immediately discovered the abnormality. From his point of view, the sea in the extreme distance seemed to have suddenly entered a stillness of time. Between breathing, everything in the entire field of vision turned into ice. It turned out to be Kuzan. I thought it would be a Kainu. Qin Yang raised his eyebrows. Seeing that the power of freezing had approached him, his eyes narrowed, and in an instant, a monstrous black flame ignited all over his body. The fire was raging, pitch black as ink, and very strange. Huge black flames wrapped Qinyang to resist the attack of cold air. Not only that, Kuzan's air conditioning was unable to advance even an inch in the face of the black flames. He found out, the sneak attack failed. Kuzan fell back to the deck and said calmly, "You can find it all. The distance of 3 nautical miles spreads the power of freezing in an instant. It's a monster. So young, with this strength, in a dream, he is just an ordinary member, which is unimaginable." A young man with a mustache, Vice Admiral, couldn't help shaking his head. This man is in his 30s, codenamed Momonga, with a long knife around his waist, a swordsman. "Stop the ship and prepare to land and surround." At this point, Kizaru gave the order. After he finished speaking, he turned into a photon fluid, and with a swoosh, he quickly approached Qinyang's direction. Glint glint fruit's fluidization makes his movement speed seem like teleportation. In less than half a second, he had already crossed the distance of 3 nautical miles and appeared in front of Qinyang. "Yo, Kizaru, last time we said goodbye, I didn't expect you to remember to fight. This time it's even more despicable to play sneak attack." Qinyang was not in a hurry, in short, ridiculed first. After taunting, he jumped over the ice. However, this kind of sarcasm might be useful to ordinary people, but to Kizaru, he didn't care about any scenes he hadn't seen before. "This time there is no second Hades to help you," Kizaru said. "I found the ship of the Red Hair Pirates before, and now I think about it. At that time, you should have left the Sabayati land on his ship. It is troublesome to have something to do with the red hair, but watch him leave you in the here, it's obviously just a normal relationship." Hearing this, Qinyang rolled his eyes. "You guys are too jealous of the 4 emperors, but you still have the face to call yourself Marine Admiral. This time, with the strength of 5 warships, if you want to arrest me, you look down on me too much." The two were chatting normally, and people who didn't know it thought they were friends they hadn't seen for a long time. "You can't escape this time." Suddenly, a word came, and then, Kuzan approached quickly, and after a while, he came to Kizaru's side. "Sengoku is very clever, and in order to catch me at sea, he specially sent you over here." Qinyang said playfully, "Do you think that if you freeze the surrounding sea area, I won't be able to leave?" Hearing this, Kuzan's face was solemn. Qinyang's whole body was blazing with black flames, and his cold energy couldn't get close to him at all. Kuzan had no doubt that if the opponent made a full shot, he could burn a big hole in the entire ice in an instant. "Don't talk nonsense, the red hair is still nearby, not far away, quick fight." Saying that, Kizaru held a void in his right hand, and suddenly, a golden lightsaber was held in his palm. Tiankong Cloud Sword. With a sword in hand, the next moment, he moved and came to Qinyang's side in an instant. This is Marine's advanced fighting technique, one of Rokushiki's, shaved. Really fast. Qinyang is now Ibaraki's transformation, and his dynamic vision is far more comparable to human beings, so he can barely see the movement trajectory. After approaching, Kizaru slashed with a sword without any hesitation. Qinyang's eyes locked on the opponent. He stepped back with his right foot, and at the same time avoided his body. He could barely escape. And at this moment, Kuzan shot. Hockey. The cold air filled the air, and 5 icicles condensed in the air, all of which shot towards Qinyang's dodging direction. 2-on-1, so unfair. The corner of Qinyang's eyes twitched, and in an instant, the black flames soared, as if the flames soared into the sky, causing the surrounding air to burn together. Kuzan were vaporized before they approached 3 meters. Marine and pirates will be fair. Don't you think it's funny? Kizaru was not afraid of high-temperature radiation. He missed with a sword, and took advantage of the moment Qinyang resisted Kuzan's attack, and shot again. A sword swept across, and a golden lightsaber aimed at Qinyang's leg. The other party obviously didn't want to kill Qinyang, but wanted to capture him alive, so he first wanted to abolish Qinyang's ability to escape. 2 admirals against you at the same time, you can be proud. That's an honor. Chinyong Isho, with a slight jump, a backflip, directly pulled away a distance of more than 10 meters. When the big monster transformed, he gained not only two abilities, but also the physical quality of an extraordinary person. After gaining a breath, Chinyong laughed suddenly, black flames burned on his palms, and the next moment, he squatted down and slapped heavily on the ice. 2 against 1, I really can't beat it now. So be it, I call my dream senior to come and play with you. With a light drink, in an instant, the ice surface under Chinyang's feet was vaporized in one breath. With a thud, Chinyang fell into the sea. In an instant, a huge amount of water vapor filled the air, blocking all sight. Escape, Kuzan frowned, releasing observation haki. However, in the perception, under the sea, some kind of creature with a huge breath is slowly waking up. No, there is something. His expression changed slightly. Kizaru also felt the abnormality, and the next moment, a huge black shadow suddenly rushed out of the sea. Roar. In the harsh, sharp roar, it was like some kind of ancient beast. Marine, you are courting death. Covered by thick fog, the huge black shadow spit out human words. The black figure was on all fours, only a huge fox head sticking out of the thick fog, grinning, eyes fierce. Hoo hoo hoo. Behind the shadow, 9 slender tails swayed constantly. The next moment, the shadow opened its huge mouth, and suddenly, mysterious power gathered at one point, and a small, extremely compressed energy ball appeared impressively. Tailed Beast Cannon. Seeing this scene, Kuzan and Kizaru suddenly changed color.